Hello and welcome once again to episode 135 of Code Completion. We're a group of iOS developers and educators hoping to share what we love most about development, Apple technology, and completing your code. My name is Dimitri, and I'll be your host once again for this episode, and I'm joined today by my fellow completionist, Spencer.
Hey there.
And back with us after a long time gone is Fernando.
Hello.
Today is our WWDC special episode where we just kind of record for way too long and go over everything that was discussed. So there is a literal wall of notes that I took during the keynote, and for the first time I missed bits and parts of it, and that was a very weird experience for me because I have a child that I'm now raising. And that child is more important than the keynote. Who'da thunk? So I had to step away for more than a few moments. So I might have personally missed some things, which is fun and exciting because I'll get to hear about them for the first time here. But what are your guys' views of the keynote this year? How did it go for you? Fernando.
I swore it was going to be an hour, so I didn't actually plan for 2 hours.
Since when has the keynote been an hour?
Really? I don't know. In my mind, it was like, parts of it just blur, so it feels like an hour sometimes. But no, of course, it was 2 hours. I'm really digging the editing. It has grown on me. Like, I used to really, really enjoy the live aspect of it, but I can see like they've got a flow now going with the editing. Really, really nice. Some transitions were like genuinely amazing.
Very creative this time around. Not
Very
like
creative.
photorealistic moving a camera around, but like let's have fun with these shapes.
Yep. So very enjoyable overall. I won't get into like the nitty gritty. We'll have plenty of time for that. Overall, I'm mostly satisfied with everything in general.
You got your money's worth?
No.
Not
But
even $1.
So hard to satisfy free.
exactly. Where's my dollar? But it was good. I got excited for a few things. There's a lot to discuss. So what else can I ask for? Which is for free, I guess.
Spencer?
Yeah, I thought it was good overall. It was long, and I thought it was interesting that they were able to cram 4 operating systems into an hour, and then the last one into the last hour. Like good improvements, but personally, one surprise that I was not expecting that we talked about last week that we'll talk about this week too. But yeah, I thought it was good and satisfactory.
Yeah.
And slightly depressing price wise, but we'll talk about that.
Well, let's dig in with the cheapest product of the announcements. And Apple really wasted no time. They're like, well, people really want Macs. Let's just give them the Macs and move on. And that's what they did. They just served us a platter of MacBook Airs and MacBook Air, I guess. And we have a new MacBook Air, 15 inches. Who saw that coming? Definitely not the entire Apple sphere.
Yeah. But it's got some good things. They said liquid retina, or they said like liquid retina display. I don't know
that
if it was
means
like
curved
XDR.
corners.
Oh, is that all that means? Okay. Yeah. So 500 nits brightness, slightly brighter. I don't know if the M1 MacBook Air is 300 or 400.
I think right around that ballpark.
Yeah. It's not super bright, but still the M2 chip, which I thought was kind of interesting, but I guess we're not quite at the point of having an M3 yet.
Yeah, that's what all the rumors were saying, right? That this MacBook Air would have an M3.
Yeah, so that was slightly shocking, but yeah, I mean, like 6 speakers, three microphones, 1080p camera. Still not, I mean, I guess it's not 720p, but still, it could be 1440p. I don't know.
We're now at full HD.
Yeah. And it's like 11.5 millimeters, so pretty small. And it's got the I think the 13-inch MacBook Air, the latest one, is also like that, but it kind of has the new design language. It's not a wedge like the M1 and previous MacBook Airs, so looks good. and it has some good colors.
I
Where's my
totally missed the
12-inch
colors.
Apple?
What are the colors?
It's whatever, space gray, silver, like midnight
Starlight.
blue, yeah, and starlight, I think.
Yeah.
So, but the midnight blue is good. It's like a dark navy. I would definitely get that.
Interesting.
We're getting closer to the Apple of old with like a plethora of like colors.
Mm-hmm.
This is a
Good.
step in the right direction. I like it.
And the
Yeah.
iMacs.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying, right? If
Yeah.
like I would kill for like an orange MacBook Air.
That's
That'd be
not
cool.
gold.
That's
Yeah.
not gold. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
as someone who has purchased the gold color that is very disappointing. It is not orange. It's technically orange, but it's like the pukiest of oranges. And I am not content with that. I gave it a fair shot for a whole year, but the orange case just makes it look not even colored because it's just so muted by comparison. But yeah, so these MacBook Airs, $12.99, very reasonable for what it is. I think they're going to sell a lot of these. 18 hours of battery life, I think we missed. $11.99 for education pricing, which is nice. And you can order them today, and they ship next week, right?
Yep.
Moving on, we got a chunkier Mac that's getting an update, and this is very surprising because it indicates that the Mac Studio was not a one-off product, which I think a lot of people were expecting, just like the iMac Pro was pretty much a one-off product. People were expecting the Mac Studio as being like that stopgap, as an interim between like the product lines, but it's back, and it's back with an M2 Max and an M2 Ultra. Lots of speed improvements over the M1 Max and M1 Ultra. I think for the CPU, the M1 Ultra to the M2 is 20% faster for the CPU, 30% for the GPU, and 40% for the neural engine. So that's quite a good increase. As we expected, 192 gigabytes of RAM for the Max. Not Max, for the maxed out Ultra. Oh gosh, these words. 22 streams of 8K ProRes for those who need that many 8Ks.
That's a lot of Ks.
Yeah. And
HDMI 2.1.
Yeah, so that's
finally
getting upgraded just like the MacBook Air Pros. And 6 Pro Display XDRs for all the space on your desk to just be consumed by monitor.
More than 100 million pixels. I was shocked when they said that. I was like, oh wow, that's a lot of pixels.
And a lot of money, too.
6 times a second at 10-bit. 60 times a second. A lot more than 6. And it's starting at the same $19.99, so that's cool.
Yeah.
The cool. Ultra runs at $39.99. No, yeah, $3,999. And yeah, that's also reasonable for what it is. We'll get back to this price point in a little bit, but I just wanted to posit: why is Apple still comparing against Intel Macs? Like every single time they're like, this is faster than our Intel Mac from 4 years ago that no one cares about. It's not a comparison to anything. We already get it.
It's 12 times faster. Like, yes, of course it is. Yeah,
so I think I'll offer a different viewpoint. We all are like into the M chips already, but like the percentage of actual Apple devices out there, especially Macs, is low. It's easy to compare against Intel if it's your own machine. Like there's no need to take a jab at someone else, which they will happily do. But
I mean, they did for the
jab.
15-inch laptops.
They did, but if they didn't mention any specific brand.
Yeah.
So it was very like ambiguous, like the best-selling Intel laptop that's not ours, like whatever that means. So if you compare against like old iMacs, it's an easy comparison, an easy win against Intel, and the keynote is watched by everyone, not only tech people. So,
or at least read in like articles that come after.
Yeah. It's just a weird comparison still to me. Like compare it to an active Intel if you really want to, or don't.
Yeah.
Like just say these are so fast you're not gonna notice anything, which is true to a certain degree. So like just use that. I don't know what, like it just feels so weird that we're how many years down the line and we're still comparing to age old machines. That like it makes sense if like you are saying from the previous generation to this one, but like this is 2-3 generations ago of computers and it feels weird. That's all.
Yeah. I wanted to real quick go back to what you said about being surprised about the Mac Studio not being a one-off. I'm really glad it's not. I think it's to me it's like super appealing because I've always enjoyed like the Mac Mini, but having one that's more powerful with better I/O, like it's super cool. I really want one. Like if probably the next time I get a computer, I'll probably get a Mac Studio because I'm almost always hooked up to my external monitor and keyboard and stuff, and then I have my my MacBook Air when I need to go on the go or something. So I really like them. Yeah, I'm glad they're sticking around. Uh, but also, there's something new in the works. So
It's
that
so
I
new. It's so new that like you might have forgotten they got announced because it's very boring in a way, which
yeah
is very surprising. I was not expecting that. But go
no, if I
ahead,
was a
announce it.
betting yeah, if I was a betting man last week, I would have lost the bet. New Mac Pro, same chassis, same motherboard. They just are removing the Intel socket and throwing in an M1 or sorry, an M2 Mac or Ultra. Wow. Uh, so yeah, I mean it's basically the same thing as a Mac Studio, except you now get PCI expandability and like 8 Thunderbolt ports. So
So
yeah,
back to the price point that I mentioned. The
yeah.
M2 Ultra Max Studio is, say it with me, $39.99, which is a fair amount. The Mac Pro with the same configuration, and you get some differences. You get an extra Ethernet port. You get 2 extra Thunderbolt ports, and then a lot of PCI things. And all of that costs another $3,000 because the Mac Pro starts at $69.99 for the same configuration, which is kind of hilarious to me.
Yeah.
But let's go over those differences. So yeah, you get one extra 10 gigabit Ethernet ports. That's cool. You have 2 extra Thunderbolt ports. So there's 6 on the back and 2 on the top. And you don't need the afterburner card. In fact, they said the M2 Ultra is as powerful as 7 afterburner cards. So they really downsized the requirements of that processing just a tad. And then you have a whole bunch of Gen 4 PCIe. I think there were 2 16 lane and then the rest were 8 lane. Is that
Oh,
correct?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Well, you won't really need all those lanes for very much because the only things you can stick on these things are I/O cards, basically. So this is like audio equipment cards, video capture or display, and this is not a GPU. This is get
Right.
video in and a video out only.
Capture card, yeah.
And it's not only for capture, like also for driving displays is very common. So you can have those. You can have networking cards, which
Yeah,
useful
throw in
for
100
fiber.
gigabit Ethernet, I guess.
I might have a use for that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not pointing any fingers. And I'm just kidding. Mac file sharing probably won't be able to survive that, which is hilarious in its own right. And then you can have just like USB expansion, I guess. So if you need a ton of USB ports, this is your solution. Just get all the USB ports. And yeah, you can get it in tower or rack mount forms. The rack mount is an
Yeah.
extra 1,500 because that's the price you pay for no feet. And
I don't know. The rails are maybe a couple $100, but they're not that much.
yeah, they're very nice rails, Spencer.
Sure, I
Very
guess.
nice rails. And yeah, you can order like everything else. You can order today and have it shipped next week.
Exciting and also just terribly overpriced, but
Yeah,
that's
not a lot to say, honestly.
nope.
Yeah,
I think the funny part was that it was probably the shortest announcement out of all 3 of these Macs. It was just like, oh, by the way, we have a Mac Pro. It's Apple Silicon now, PCIe. Okay, bye. And they've moved on.
were they embarrassed? Like, did they have bigger plans and it just did
I'm sure
not
they
come
did,
to much?
dude.
So then they just like, this is our solution for now, and then we'll come back to it in 3 to 6 years.
And I'm surprised that they released it again. I wasn't expecting it. I was definitely expecting them to wait until they had like the extreme chip, whatever that's going to be, the 4C die. So basically two ultras, and then it's like, okay, maybe that's a little bit more warranted, especially for the price. But
It made it to the
whatever.
keynote. If they were embarrassed, it would have been a press release.
That's fair.
Yeah. Do you remember when they had like press releases for 5 days in a row leading up to, was it a dub dub? That was amazing.
Yeah.
Like all of those were awesome. But yeah, I guess we can only do that once a decade or so. Um, anyways, that's it for like the Mac hardware. There's no other iOS or peripheral hardware at all. Definitely not going to talk about something that we glue to our faces.
No.
But they did take us down memory lane with all the apps that they've updated. Starting off with a phone app. So the phone app got a big upgrade as the most used apps on a thing called a phone, and that's cool, I guess. We can customize what contacts look like when they call us for the
Yeah.
thing
Well,
that happens all the time.
is it like that, or is it the other way around, where you can customize what you look when you ring others? That's
Either
what I
way,
understood, right?
I think so, but either way, it's like I'm surprised they started out with that. I thought there were some way cooler features in iOS, and then that's what they led with. I'm like, okay.
I'll be honest. This is such a boomer idea. My dad has told me 100 times, "Hey, I have this great idea. What if I set my own ringtone, and when I call you, it rings that
Yeah, can
ringtone?"
you make that into an app? It's like this is
Yes,
impossible to like hook into a system
yes,
like that, but it's like, oh, that's the app
yes.
that's gonna sell.
Yeah.
This is the same thing. I think a couple of things that they showed were like very kind of gimmicky, sort of like,
Yeah.
but they're not bad. I mean, if you have, we're at 17, right?
Well, I know we've definitely plateaued a little bit as
Yes.
far as features go, which is like it's fine. The phone pretty much does everything you want it to, and that's a good thing. So
I feel like, you know how things like have like a logarithmic drop off, like they increase quickly and then they start to plateau like that, and they
mhm.
do increase, but it's like slower and slower and slower. We did a wonderful thing with macOS 10. We hit macOS 10 and then we stopped updating it. We had macOS 10.1, .2,
Yeah.
.3, and it was ever so smaller updates, right? I feel like we need to do that again. We need another exponential drop off where we can go ahead and just like plateau the version numbers and set expectations that things are just a little bit better. It's not like a whole version better, you know?
Uh-huh.
Um
Yeah.
like maybe for the future.
Yeah.
Apple, think about that. Maybe like
Well,
iOS X. I don't know.
their versioning is like kind of weird too, because like they've merged uh iOS, iPadOS, and tvOS are all on 17, but watchOS is still on 10.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Because
iOS 11 could have been
reasons.
when macOS 11 was a thing. Like those
Yeah.
could have just like aligned ever so perfectly, but no. We have to have a lookup table in the back of our minds to figure this stuff out. Because
Thanks,
that's
Mac
the only
Tracker.
way. But yeah, there was a shout out to vertical text for Japanese and Chinese contacts, which
Hmm.
cool. I don't know if your
Yep.
phone needs to be set to Japanese or Chinese. I will find out in 6 months because I'm not installing a beta. Um, and yeah, that was it for that little feature. FaceTime, or no, phone calls also got a second feature, and this one is like way
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah.
And that is live voicemails. So basically, I don't know if you need to press the button or it just happens automatically. um
It seems it just happens automatically.
Oh, it looked like you had
you
to press the button to
you
me.
might need to
Really?
press the button to see the
Yeah.
text,
Uh-huh.
but I don't think you need
Well,
to press the button to like send it to voicemail so that way it would happen.
yeah.
Or maybe you do. Maybe this is like built on the fact that the voicemail is done by your phone and not by your carrier, which is like a
Oh.
very different thing.
Hmm.
Um, or maybe not, because I don't remember cell phones ever having like pickup during voicemail, which landlines have always had.
Yeah,
Remember
that's a good
landlines?
point.
Like people would call you, you
Vaguely,
hear the
yes.
voice, voice answering machine like out loud for the whole neighborhood to hear, and then you can pick up the phone and interrupt it. I think this is the first time we're seeing that for cell phones.
I'd be fine with getting away from like carrier voicemails because
I think that depends on the carrier, right? I don't see my carrier here in Mexico being like, oh, you handled voicemail. I think they still like hang up.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I
voicemail.
think this is Apple handling the voicemail, as in it's picking up the phone call and then just handling the voicemail.
That would be very cool.
That'd be fun.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Or they'd signed a deal with all carriers to just like, do this on the back end.
If they're doing that, where they pick up and then they pretend to be like voicemail, that would solve my question, which was going to be about localization. Like it looked great in English. How does it work in Spanish, in Italian, in Japanese? If they're picking up, boom, it's easy, right? Device on device localization just like goes from speech to text, and that's it.
Yeah, so we'll see. Honestly, I think that's really cool. It's probably going to allow me to just ignore every phone call, which is like my goal in life, which is awesome. But then voicemail makes a comeback in a way that was completely unnecessary in my personal opinion, and that is via FaceTime, because there is a superior replacement to voicemail, and that is text messaging. But you can't do that with landline, so that's forgivable. But if you're doing FaceTime, you have a text messaging device, so a number that text messaging. It doesn't make any sense.
It's almost like you're a millennial or something. That seems like a very millennial thing to say.
My voice recording says, "Please text me." I'm not going to pick up the phone in nicer words, awesome. But it essentially just says like, "Hey, I'm unavailable. If you need me right away, text me. I will see that immediately if I'm busy and cannot pick up the phone. If you leave me a voicemail, I'm going to see that in 2 hours. Sorry."
I'll give you a scenario where it works. Amy really likes calling her grandparents, and it's a bummer when they don't pick up.
She can record a video and send it via iMessage.
At the very least, she can do that. But it's the same interface, right?
Yeah, I guess. Fair.
Yeah. So, again, this comes back to the whole gimmick kind of thing. Like, is this great? No. Is it bad? No. So it's like...
As long as no one leaves me FaceTime voicemails, then I'm okay with that.
Now I have to do that to me. Hey, it's Fernando again.
Okay, but like going along with that gimmicky thing, another thing is like they kind of made a big deal out of stickers, which I thought was interesting. Like I've never used stickers once, but I mean, I guess people must use it if it's being talked about in the keynote.
Here's my hot take on it. I love WhatsApp stickers. They're great because you tap it and they're sent. This whole drag and drop it into the message, I am ever going
to. They called it.
To be fair, you do not need a drag. You can drag, and it's fun to drag. But you don't need to. You can just tap.
They called it. The best part was they called it peel and stick. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so gimmicky, dude.
Okay, I mean, I guess. Can I import my stickers from WhatsApp? If so, I'm game. Just give me a sticker kit.
I think that's what we got this year. And it seems like any app can have stickers now, which is really, really cool. Based on the decrepit iMessage App Store, which they hid away. Funnily enough. Not too proud of that moment. But yeah, any app. I don't know if Macs can have stickers. That would be neat if only they shared the same code, Apple. But it seems like stickers are system-wide now. They have new effects, so there's not only scratch and sniff. There is also embossed, like those plasticky stickers.
With the accelerometer,
which awesome. I'm for it. The little change your phone's angle and you see a glimmer. That's awesome.
All right.
Yeah. So iMessage stickers, cool. Is it still called iMessage? No, the app is called Messages. I am born way too long ago. Other new things, it got search filters. Very welcome. You can search more accurately. There's a catch-up arrow for when people are too noisy in a group chat. You can just jump to the top, I guess. Swipe to reply, very welcome, because tapping and holding and trying to get to
I
the
thought that
reply
was already a
thing
thing.
No,
was
it's
kind of hard.
not. Yeah.
Oh
It's
no, you can
swipe
press
to
to reply,
see-
right?
Yeah, press to reply.
Yeah. Okay.
And then swipe shows you like the edit times, which is useful. Not the edit times, that's notes.
The send times.
The send times, yeah. So all good. Transcribed audio messages, location sharing,
Welcome. Yeah.
updates. So it's like polish, which is exactly what we want out of like OS releases at this point. Is just polish and get the missing bits, and that's perfect. As far as new stuff, we have check-in, which is basically a replacement for needing to talk to your parents or whatnot when you're traveling, and you can just send them a check-in, and then you don't need to talk to them.
Nice.
Which is, I think, what everyone might have hated out of that interaction of like needing to tell people that they're leaving and then they've arrived. You can just let your phone do that, which excellent. Especially when you're too tired to remember after the 16 hours of travel.
I think it's really good, especially regarding women. Like most of the women in my life have that back and forth. Hey, I'm leaving this place. Hey, I'm getting to this place. Especially like my mother-in-law usually leaves my home like really late. So she's always communicating with my wife. Hey, I just got here. Like everything is nice. Having that automated, nice polish.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
But then it's a replacement for actually doing it, right? Like, this feature is for people who don't want to tell people but need to tell people. You know, otherwise you just tell them, and that's the end of it.
You've got the option.
Like you wanted to communicate and have a conversation. You're using this as an excuse to talk to them. So you're saying, "Hey, I'm home," and then you can get on a phone call. The check-in thing is for when you don't want to talk to them.
The benefit is having the location and being late.
Oh,
so
yeah,
if you don't, like, that's good. Mm-hmm. If you don't respond, you do get location, battery, and everything, which is really neat.
Yeah, it's like a plan B, I guess.
Yeah.
And didn't it show something like if they were on like their expected path or something, like the expected route home or something? That's super cool.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really cool. Yeah.
They've got some good features in there for sure.
Jokes aside, I think this is a legitimately good feature. I do think it was made for introverts by introverts. That's just me. But probably. Like definitely going to see a lot of use by a wide variety of people. And that is always welcome. It's like the TV, like the late night TV ads. Whenever you see people like really fumbling popcorn, like they shouldn't have any problem fumbling that popcorn. That's because that product is made for not them. But the only way they can sell it is to show an able person being a buffoon on TV, and that's how they're going to sell their product when it's actually meant for people who have much more specific needs, and this like fits that to a T. But it's a much smaller group. So I think this is one of those features. It has the silliness associated with it from like the obvious point of view, but then when you dig into it, it's going to have a lot of very specific and very welcome use cases, which I think is awesome. I think that's it. You can make stickers out of emoji, finally, I guess. And you can also make stickers out of your own photos, which is another finally, I guess. You can stop using that random app that you might have downloaded to do that.
That you shouldn't have downloaded.
And I feel sorry for the people who made those random apps, but it's now built into the system, so that's a thing. And then effects, I think we talked about that. You can get emboss, you can get comic effect, whatever. So cool messages. AirDrop is actually exciting. And
is it?
Yeah, dude.
It's the same. It's another gimmick. Hey, you know what?
It is a gimmick.
What if I had my business card here and we tap phones?
But it's a gimmick.
My business card.
It's a gimmick I would actually use instead of the stickers. That's why I'm excited.
This is what happens when you go to a conference, right? You need to be able to bump phones, like that app that was called Bump, available on the first iPhone
App
Store. That did just that, except it sent it through the internet because that's how you had to do it back then. And we've come full circle because now you can start an AirDrop locally and you can just walk away, which is Finally.
That's
How
so
annoying
good,
was it waiting for a long video to transfer holding the phones? Now you can just use the internet, or
Yeah.
perhaps your local Wi-Fi network, to just do the rest of it, which is finally.
Yeah. I will say, like, I remember seeing an ad for this. This must have been back in, like, I don't know, 2011 or something, for like an Android phone where you could do the tap thing and it would, you could send photos like back to back on the phones. So it's like,
You had
it's
to
not
hold
a
them really
new thing.
still.
Yeah, for
I
sure,
remember that via
Yeah,
NFC. That's
yeah,
how it would transfer.
yeah.
And it's better
But
than holding them like this, still to still, so the IR cameras can align.
yeah, for the
That was a Japanism for a good many decades. Of it's
Yeah.
just that's the way you transfer stuff. Including, did Game Boys do this too? I think Game Boys did this at one point.
Oh yeah, dude.
Where
The
you have to
IR
like
port.
hold the
Yep.
IR ports like right
Yeah.
up to each other, and they would
One of
transfer very slowly your Pokemon to
Yeah.
and from each other.
One of my like earliest memories was doing that at a laundromat with a kid that I didn't know. We both had, Pokemon Red or whatever. It was awesome.
Nice.
Did your parents not talk to you about IR security?
They weren't Japanese, so I don't think they knew about it. So the contact thing is called Name Drop, which I think is pretty dang good. That's well named. And yeah, it's good stuff.
I think SharePlay can also be airdropped finally, and so can a whole bunch of other
Neat.
things and apps. You no longer need to bring up the activity sharing sheet, whatever it's called, and you can just share stuff in an app via a button, and you can airdrop right away, which is finally.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to mention it later for what is it called, CarPlay. But now you can have like group playlists basically without having to pass the phone around with SharePlay and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, like in the car. Very nice welcome addition for like road trips. Just let anyone kind of hijack the audio system with their own phone, which is like, why not at this point? So very cool. I hope it's not going to work like between vehicles. That would be very funny. Just as funny as people like airdropping sloths to each other on public transit.
Yes.
Like just like driving by someone, staying steady with them just long enough to put some funny tunes in their car. I think is going to be very hilarious, but I don't think that would be possible. You probably need to interact with it.
They've surely thought of that.
But yeah, I'm sure there's some funny things that can happen. Like, some funky name is trying to share something with you, and you'll be like, wait, what? This accident was caused by an airdrop.
Yeah.
So yeah, airdrop, awesome. Another thing that's awesome. Go for it.
Sorry. I think this is in the platform State of the Union, but they talked about some. Oh, are we gonna talk about that later?
We totally are.
Okay, my bad. I'll stop.
Oh my god, this is gonna be 17 hours long.
It's just gonna be 17 hours. But autocorrect is here to save us because apparently they fixed autocorrect, and I won't believe it until I am trying it. And I'm not installing the betas, I'm telling you. Not on any one machine. But Intelligence Keyboard, no. They call this something else, but the keyboard is more intelligent, and my notes are bad. But autocorrect is more accurate, and it learns your text and not other people's text, and just infects your phone with like the horrible italics and bold like math symbol fonts that people use.
Horrible.
Like that was bad, and I hope that this means that is no longer the case. But yeah, it's more accurate, has a new design, quick reverts to exactly what you typed, which is what you want in most cases. Learns your spelling mistakes if you wanted to learn your spelling mistakes.
That is a double-edged sword.
Totally.
Like, it's just Apple fixing the autocorrect is like the year of Linux. Like, it's supposedly happening every single year, and it's never coming. I'm sorry, but it is not. So yeah, we'll see.
They did
Very
make the
low
spacebar do more things, so that's cool.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I'd use that.
Moving on to the next thing they fixed. In this case, they Sherlocked. Day One is the journaling app that's most popular. Well, now there's a journaling app built into your phone for life's special moments, and it's called Journal. I kind of tuned out at this point, so I don't really know much about it other than the fact that a poop was happening. So that's what I associate with Journal. I don't mean that in a bad way.
Journal
it's just
that.
that's how life's special moments happen, you know. So anything noteworthy?
Nope. Feel bad for Day One.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I can see why this is happening. I don't like that Apple's like expanding and expanding and expanding into things that are not strictly relevant to their platform.
Well, they have nothing else to do, Fernando. They
That's what I'm
have a
saying,
mountain
like,
of bugs
spend the
they don't want to fix.
Yeah, but
they
they're
got to make
like-
new features. The
But they keep
investors
killing my
expect it.
friends. I don't have any friends at Day One, but if I did, I'd be like really angry. Like they keep getting into things they like. Why would you? This doesn't make sense. There's the Sherlocking, and then there's this. This isn't even Sherlocking.
Okay,
Right?
so some things to consider. If you are a Day One user, you're not switching to this because you have years of stuff in Day One. If you are not a Day One user and you never considered having a journal and you saw this thing on your phone by default and it's called Journal and you give it a try and it had some limitations, then you might actually go search for a better journaling app, which traditionally, at least on... But yeah, if that happens, then you are likely to like discover a new app in the process. And I think that's happening for a lot of apps that Apple has built as a part of the system. It's just helping users find better apps for the most part, and it's not really Sherlocking those other apps out of existence.
I think that obviates the power of defaults. I'm sure there's a lot of users that are gonna go down that path, but I'm sure there's like millions more who are gonna be like, "Huh, this is good enough." And that's it. They never leave.
Well, that's fair.
I don't know. It's complicated. I just wish, like, I don't know. Is it time to break Apple up?
Good luck.
Yeah, I don't.
And let's
I
not.
don't think
Let's
so.
like. This is not the podcast.
It's never
gonna
happen.
We have a million topics, but it just feels like greedy from them. Like it just feels greedy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do disagree. Like, I do think that for the most part, people are not impacted by it very much as far as app developers go. I think it's beneficial to the vast majority of app developers who have gone further than just do the basics and stopped there. Because like, how many to-do apps still exist, even though reminders is part of the phone? How many notes apps still exist? You know, how many calculator apps? Like, all of this is basic functionality that's in the phone. It's just these apps, if they do one thing more than that, then they have a niche that they can satisfy and build income around, right? And I think this is kind of introducing people to the idea that you can use your phone as a journal if you haven't done it already. And some people are going to stick on this, but I do think a lot of people are going to go explore that they wouldn't have explored previously. So it's not necessarily going to take away from anything that like other apps have been doing all this time. Nor can Apple like catch up immediately to all the features that those apps can do, right?
Sure. I will say this is better than usual because it seems to me that they've exposed the engine behind the journal, which is Suggestion Kit. Like if it's basically the same thing, I'm more than happy that they do their own take on journaling. Because that way, like, it's very frustrating that you cannot access like people from photos on your own app. Very frustrating. Very frustrating that you can't access the actual rings from your app. Like, those things are things that should be exposed to give everyone like a fair chance. So this is a little bit better than usual, which I will gladly take. Suggestions Kit looks amazing.
Talking about things that look amazing, has anyone gone ready to chuck their iHome out the window with a built-in iPod dock to now use their iPhone as an alarm clock?
Because this is the last straw. Obviously,
now is the time.
I was on the cusp.
Apple killing companies left and right. This time, the iHome, which, if you don't know, the
What a
iHome was a
blast from the
product
past, dude.
from decades ago. I can say decades at this point, right?
Yes.
Where it's an alarm clock. However, it has built-in speakers, like alarm clocks tended to have. But this one, you can just put your iPod smack in the middle of it. It would just plug into the iPod, and it would play the music off of it. And for those of you who don't know what an iPod is, that was a device that you carried around with you that just had music on it. And I don't think the standby mode that we are kind of joking around with has music capabilities, but it does do the front of the iHome, which is just like time.
It's
Which is
just
cool.
like when you it's like when you put your watch sideways. It's got that kind of standby mode. It's kind of cool though. You can have the alarm clock, but kind of along with this, you've got widgets, and the widgets are now interactable, so you could check off reminders or something. I mean, I've got my phone sitting on a MagSafe thing right here, so it'd be cool to just flip
Just
it
tilt it.
sideways and just have the time. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'll do it at night as like an alarm, or well, I mean, I use my phone as my alarm clock, but I don't want the display on all the time.
Your phone is watching you, Spencer.
Well, not that. It's just
Watching you
OLED, so I
sleep.
don't want it to die. Yeah, I don't know. It's cool though. I don't know. Kind of a gimmick. I mean, that almost seems to be like the pattern that we're sensing here is like very many gimmicks because we've plateaued, and that's, I guess, fine.
One note on the OLED. It seems, and this is more or less universal with OLED screens, if you have a low power output, it does not cause burn-in. So
Oh,
Neat.
interesting.
since this is likely to be used at night, it will likely be at a low screen brightness, and therefore it can be on for basically indefinitely, and it's not necessarily going to eat into the life of those actual cells
Okay.
because they're not really being used. So that is one thing to consider when using this. It's kind of like the always on display. It's going to be useful. It's going to have useful information. You can just use all the widgets that you've already been using. I don't know if they need to be modified or anything. Don't quote me on that. But yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's cool. Be nice to have something like that for iPad if you wanted to put it on a wall or something as like a home base station type of thing. if that
I was
makes
thinking the
sense.
same thing, but did it come to iPad? I don't think it
Widgets
did.
came to
don't think
iPad.
so.
Yeah,
Well,
widgets
yeah.
came, but not standby mode.
Yeah.
This reminds me that as they were presenting it, I had the same idea as Spencer. Do you guys remember?
Panic
Yeah,
did a
yeah.
thing, and I forgot what they called, and Apple killed it before it really
Did it?
got.
Was it Apple?
Yeah, because they said that you cannot have a dashboard like app that had other app experiences. Like that was not allowed on the App Store. And then basically that forced Panic to remove a bunch of things, and it's essentially neutered the app.
I didn't
So
know
Dang.
that. Like their official reason is that it didn't make any money.
yeah, that was after there was a whole bunch of kerfuffling with Apple. So I don't know if the not making money was like the final nail in the coffin, but there was a lot of back and forth early on when it just launched, and it's unfortunate because a lot of people wanted to use iPads as like little status displays.
Yeah.
I love
And
it. Now
like
that they're gotten so cheap and you have like generations and generations of iPads, I'd
Yeah.
absolutely
Just buy an
love.
old one.
Yeah,
mhm,
yeah.
Yeah.
I've been
yeah.
thinking. I mean, this just on off the top of my head, but for years I've been thinking like, would it be like too difficult to replicate dashboard? Because I thought Panic had stopped doing it because of money, and I was like, I don't care about money. Well, if you give me $1, I'll be happy. So
I'll give you
like
$1 for that.
building
Mhm.
something like that would be
Especially for
hella
yourself, it's
fun.
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now
So
with Swift charts and everything,
mhm.
I'll think
Yeah,
about
very
it.
very
Sounds like a nice
straightforward.
project.
And I did want to bring up like Apple is bringing out use cases for older devices like continuity camera, turning an iPhone into
Yeah.
just a camera. So when you have an old one laying around,
I
now
need
you
to
have a
do that.
use for it. Now, like perhaps with the iPad, that can be a use for an old iPad. Like your
That'd be
kids stopped
cool.
using it. now you can just use it as a little status display for when you wake up, and you have everything that you need. That's one thing that could potentially happen, especially with widgets, if you can fill the screen with them. So we'll see. That said, we do have iPadOS on our list, but we have one more thing before that, and that is that you can now just say Siri. And I can only say that for a few more months, because as soon as this update rolls out, then I can no longer just say Siri, because then Siri will activate mid-podcast
It must
recording.
be an option, right?
I hope so.
Yeah, but I need to be able to talk to Siri, just not during a podcast.
Yeah. Well, I hope they let you, keep it as hey, whatever. But even during the keynote, Siri went off and started playing some random music. It was
wonderful. She's helping.
Thanks, Siri.
Okay. On to iPadOS 17. There are
great. Thanks, Siri. She said, "Sure thing." See?
Sure thing. On to iPadOS 17. As we mentioned, widgets are now available. They were not available. Now they are. The lock screen has customization. You can get all the planets now on the planets lock screen. I'm left wondering, does this include Pluto? If it does include Pluto, does it include all the other Kuiper Belt objects? Because there are a lot of Kuiper Belt objects, and some of them look pretty cool. So, yeah. Jokes aside, interactive widgets are probably the headlining thing that they brought up during this, which means that you can tap a button in a widget, which was possible, but it would not open the app. It would just do something in the widget. So the way they did this is very interesting, and we'll probably talk about it in the second half of the show. But a very welcome addition. Glad to have interactive widgets finally.
Yep. Dimitri in the notes has multiple timers lol. Which is pretty accurate, because it's about time, and we joked at work that only on the M2, because it needs a ton of processing power for all those timers.
I mean, I forget exactly what Craig said, but he essentially joked about it as well, saying it's like it's amazing what technological times we live in to have multiple timers, and I'm paraphrasing heavily here, but that's essentially how he led into it, and I thought that was hilarious. But yeah, multiple timers. The health app is a thing. It looks like the health app on the phone, so no surprises there. A big surprise is PS PDF Kit is getting Sherlocked. I'm just kidding. But PDFs get full editing support on iPad, which is finally. You'd
Very
think
cool.
on a device with a stylus that would have been something that happened sooner, but it didn't. This is not limited to PDFs though. This can happen with scans as well, and it will detect fields that you need to autocomplete, and that's like chef's kiss.
That's so good.
Finally, great to have that. You can add images to PDFs. So all around cool PDF support. Stage Manager got some improvements. I didn't know what they improved. I kind of missed that. But it got improvements. You can use external cameras, including the bad one built into the display they connected it to. Or any USB camera, so that's cool.
Yep.
And if you use Freeform, you can use Follow Along, which basically is like a very common feature in a lot of tools today, where if you're collaborating, you can say, follow me, and everyone else's viewport will see what you see, but they can always scroll away if they need to, which is like a much better experience than like screen sharing. So overall, like great all-around updates. Of course, it gets a lot of stuff from iOS as well, so cool.
Yep. Next up, we have macOS Sonoma going over to wine country, so that's cool. Again, like the thing they led off with was new screensavers. The desktop integration is cool, where it's like a screensaver that kind of seamlessly will transition and kind of stop into your desktop. I was like, oh, that's
but Spencer, they Sherlocked that one app that used the Apple videos to show screensaver, like on screensavers on Macs. They Sherlocked it.
What's its name?
Did Guy?
I forgot.
Did Guy make that?
I don't think so. It's just on GitHub. If you wanted to download it, but yeah, it uses all the Apple TV screensavers, and it
Nice,
shows on the
dude.
Mac. So I think this is essentially using the same thing. The cool part about it is the desktop integration, which means that whatever frame you were on, it just uses that as a desktop. So very cool. If you don't know, you can do shenanigans with your desktop even today with some like command line defaults where you can just basically load up a screensaver as your desktop and have it run as an animation. So I'm sure they're just making use of this just built into the system. So that's neat.
Yeah. Widgets are back in the, or sorry, I should say dashboard is back in the form of widgets that you can throw on your desktop. That's pretty cool. Is it called dashboard?
I think it was called dashboard from 10.4.
Yeah, it's been around a while.
And a case of Apple Sherlocking confabulator or whatever it was called. Yahoo like owned it. It was very weird. But dashboard was like a prettier thing with widgets that were actually little websites. And I actually got started doing development, writing little widgets, which is kind of like a cool throwback. But now widgets are written with SwiftUI and they're much better. And you can put them on your desktop rather than them coming on top of everything. So they're like underneath everything. So I can almost hear the people with like super cluttered desktops like saying "oh no" to themselves.
Where do I put these?
Yeah. But I have thankfully not made a new document in years and just like use Xcode for most of my computing needs. So I have nothing on my desktop anymore. So
my desktop is fine. My downloads folder is a
mess, that place is a hot.
And even if your desktop is a mess, even if it's a mess, you're one right click away from like cleaning it up. Like just right click, use stacks. Boom, it's clean.
You guys are too new for me. I'm still on the Command A, new folder, drag it into new folder, name that folder desktop, whatever that date is. Yeah. But then you can go into that and then just like keep going down the rabbit hole and see how many generations of desktops you've archived away.
That's hilarious.
That's still the generation I'm from. I have not used stacks yet. Are they good? Do they solve the purpose?
They're pretty good.
Like I never access the desktop. I just go to like new Finder window desktop if I ever need anything from there.
Yeah, me too.
Anyways, Apple also did not get the memo that Apollo is in hot water for.
Oh no!
Or they're not in hot water. They're just dumped into a pile of lava by Reddit because Reddit sucks. Turns out just as much as Twitter. And I don't think that situation got any better. Did it?
I don't think so. No. But yeah, they got a shout out from someone saying like Apollo for Reddit, and then it was shown a couple times in the background. I'm like, oh man, it was pretty front and center too. So that was probably pretty hurtful for Christian.
That's pretty hurtful. Yeah.
Maybe it's Apple like trying to use their clout to get Reddit to change their mind. I don't think so, but I think this just got recorded too early and.
Yeah,
that did not make the edit cut to get cut from the cut.
Yo, dog. I heard you like cuts.
Game mode is a thing on macOS, or will be a thing. It apparently turns everything else off, so that way your game can run at full performance, which is very cool. I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know what to think about this. I initially thought this was going to be like a replacement for Steam, meaning like you have a full UI to just like jump into games from a controller. But it does not seem to be the case. It just basically means like if a game has full screen, just don't do photo analysis in the background.
Processes. Yeah,
just don't do anything basically. So yeah, welcome. Turns into a console.
Yeah. Along with that, we've got a new game porting toolkit to apparently, I think they said something like turn the process of converting your game into a Mac app or a Mac game from like months to days or like weeks to days or something like that. So they showed a little bit more in the State of the Union. It seems kind of cool, but I don't really know anything about game development to really evaluate if it's like a viable option for game developers. I don't know.
Is it a checkbox in Unity? If it is, it's coming to the Mac. If it isn't, it ain't coming to the Mac. That's basically what people use. So Yeah, I don't know if this is going to be enough to convince like game
It's not.
developers to take the Mac seriously. I
I don't think
really
so.
do think that Apple needs to just suck it up and make a whole bunch of original games that are like serious, and prove to the industry that like people will use a Mac to play games, and therefore they should consider making a game available for the Mac because those gamers are already there. That's
Yeah.
the only thing that can do it. I don't
Yeah.
think anything else they do apart from like porting games for free is going to make it happen.
Yeah.
Which is another viable strategy. Like Apple could port games and get them on the Mac. That is something that will get games on the Mac, and most developers will probably be like, "Yeah, please, more customers. We're happy with that."
Yeah.
Which brings us to the next thing. I never played this game. I didn't know this was a game, so I'm not going to announce it. But Spencer, you seem like a gamer out of all of us. Have you heard of this game?
I have been known to game. I have heard of this game. I
Okay,
haven't played it yet.
better qualifications than me then.
Okay, yeah. Hideo Kojima came on and said that Death Stranding Director's Cut is coming to the Mac, which is like the second big game that they've ever released for the Mac, along with Resident Evil.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Tomb Raider.
Oh yeah, and Tomb Raider. Yeah, I forgot about that one. That's cool. It's like 4 or 5 years old. It's like not a relatively new game either. So
It was a big deal when it came out.
sure, yeah.
Like a
I
really
mean,
big deal.
Kojima gets like a bunch of, I mean, he's pretty prolific and stuff.
Yep.
But
But still,
I guess that's like a better release than No Man's Sky in a way, which they didn't say anything about at all. So
Yeah, did Sean Murray like mess up by like tweeting too much?
I guess, I don't know.
Like at first there was a Steam page that basically like leaked out details, right? And then he just tweeted an Apple icon. So like again, I don't think
They
that
maybe
they
just
would have
pissed off
cut
Tim
anything
Apple.
because this happened like within the past few days along with Apollo. So I don't think that would have caused that to get cut from anything, but it was very interesting that it seemed like there was a lot of smoke around No Man's Sky getting some sort of airtime, and it just really didn't. So I heard of that game, so I can talk a little bit about
There
it.
you go.
Talking about presenting things, though, if you are using Zoom or Teams or FaceTime, I think there were like one other option that they mentioned that I did not hear of, so I'm not going to talk about it. You can now do a bunch of cool stuff, like have a presenter overlay on top of the thing that you're sharing, and yeah, that's going to be welcome to a lot of people, I think. And I don't know if Zoom is going to integrate with it well. I think it's automatic, right?
They already showed it on Zoom, right?
Yeah, I
they
think
show
so.
things in apps all the time that are not really things. So I don't know if they showed it on Zoom or not.
Yeah, in a way, it's like nice because like when you share your screen, you kind of go away. But if you can kind of have it within the screen, have your own screen share and yourself, like I think that's a cool idea. Kind of, yeah. And along with that, they added like gestures, so you can do like that, and confetti comes out or whatever.
It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
I laughed.
That is like,
I laughed so hard.
It's just like the most gimmick of gimmick things, where it's like, okay, cool. I don't know. I don't really think it's that cool, and like they could have spent their time on something else. But that's just me. I don't. I'm a downer, I guess. I don't really understand or enjoy that stuff.
You don't do this on your Zoom meetings.
Hey guys.
And I fixed the bug.
That's so good. Yeah. So good.
Oh man.
Anyways, moving on from macOS, we have Safari. Safari is a thing that Apple develops, and I am thankful that they develop it because it's a much better browser than Chrome. Anyways, it adds a few extra things that Chrome would never add, namely locked private browsing, which was interesting. So basically, if you have a private browsing window open and you leave it for whatever reason, it's going to lock and prevent that site from doing anything in the process. It's also going to remove tracking from that window, so it's not going to be able to do anything that you were actively trying to prevent it from doing, which is why you opened in private browsing to begin with. And yeah, this is in addition to all the other like IP spoofing and stuff that they've been doing. So I
They have like
initially,
URL tracker blocking.
yeah,
Like they added
they'll
some more blocking
automatically
and stuff.
scrub URLs for common tracking
Yeah,
IDs.
that's awesome.
And then I don't think I might have hallucinated this. Does a locked private browsing window need like authentication to see again, or is it still just like available? It's just not doing anything.
I don't remember, honestly.
Yeah, I don't either. Not sure.
Okay. Well, in any case, shared passkeys are a thing, and this is
That's cool.
what I think a lot of people were like hoping for. This basically is password sharing for the next generation without actually having a password to share. So nothing really gets leaked in that process, which is wonderful. And it's very easy to set up. Have you used passkeys in any context
No,
before?
I haven't. Yeah, we were talking about it at work, and I have not come across a single place that has asked for a passkey. And I think two people at work said that they had encountered one place each. So
Yeah, I don't remember which one it was, but I have encountered a passkey before, and I was wonderfully like excited that it was just like a 2-click process and it was done. You have an
that's
account
cool.
and you have a thing, and it just works. And that was really really cool. I forgot what site I used it on. I was just like, "Ooh, passkeys! I'm gonna try that," and I tried it, and it worked well. So that was cool.
Nice.
So looking forward to seeing them more places because I have a
Yeah.
lot of passwords, and it would be fun to downsize that in the near future. And finally, we have web apps, which are now supported. And this is probably to combat the epidemic of Electron apps that has kind of infected all of computing. And they're basically doing what Windows is doing. If you have an app that uses the right APIs, you can just turn it into an app on the desktop, and it will go ahead and run on the desktop, but with the system's renderer, which means that it's not going to waste a whole bunch of extra resources just to run that one extra web app. So this is not running Safari, but it is sharing memory resources with Safari, namely the code, which is a big chunk of what Safari is. So that's very welcome.
Totally dig it. Like I even
Yeah.
told people at my job, like we have an Electron app, and I just flat out refuse to use it. I will not use it. But this looked like really nice. I would use it. So yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anything to get away from Electron.
yeah. Then we have AirPods that got an update. I am going to leave someone else to talk about this because I was missing in action for most of it. I came back to see that AirPlay is coming soon to hotels near me, and I'm like, cool. I don't need to bring an Apple TV with me anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's pretty nice, honestly.
Except which hotels? So you still need to bring an Apple TV with you if you want to.
Yes.
Needs
Needs adoption for sure.
But yeah, apparently AirPods do stuff. What does it do?
The AirPods changes were like decent. Like again, like year over year updates. Adaptive listening is just like an intermediate mode between like full blown noise cancellation and like transparency mode. So it's pretty nice. I think it's very similar. They'd already done something like this. I think it was last year or the year before.
Yeah.
With the whole like leaf blower thing.
Yeah.
Like it was just basically a
jackhammer.
rehash, but it's now
Yeah.
like an official mode. I like that if you like one of the changes, if you're in a call or if you find someone and the AirPods listen on you and they hear you speak, they'll lower down the volume, assuming like you're having a conversation.
Mhm.
Like pretty nice. That's definitely nice. If you're in a call, it'll lower ambience volume. So again, like all of these are progressive updates that feel really really nice. No new hardware. I see here in the notes, in Dimi's notes, like better switching between devices. Honestly, this is the whole autocorrect thing again. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
Because like switching devices is
It's
a
bad.
pain sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, but we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see.
Yeah. I think the idea of being able to like have someone talk to you, you're like, oh, hey, what's up? And it lower the volume. That's awesome. Cause I know like at work, I'm always I have my AirPods in. And then if someone, I have it on like transparency mode, but it can be hard to hear them. So not having to be like, oh crap, hold on just a second. And,
Mhm.
do the whole dance to pause your music or whatever. That's pretty cool.
Oh, they also said you can mute now by tapping one AirPod during a call. I don't know how that works because
Oh,
usually you would hang up,
hang up.
but maybe it's like hang up and
You
the right
block the
mute,
microphone with your finger,
like
the old-fashioned
tiny.
way. That's
That
how I used to watch videos in bed because I didn't want to like futz with the volume. I would just
and
cover the
then
speaker with my
yeah,
thumb and it'd be really muted, perfect for bedtime listening. And the way I held my phone like made that work. And then
nice,
the
dude.
iPhone added
They got
stereo
2 speakers.
speakers,
Yeah.
and I could no longer do that. And I was so mad because I had a whole setup like for my hand to hold my phone to never touch the audio, so that way I can listen to stuff and not like bother people. But then I just stopped listening to stuff, so that solved itself. Um, as far as the AirPlay and hotels, was the QR code like exclusive to hotels, or is that just if anyone wants to like use another person's AirPlay device, the
Yeah,
QR
I don't
code shows up?
know. It kind of seemed like it was just in hotels, but it would be a really cool thing if it was in a semi-public area to just say like, "Hey, AirPlay here." I
like
guess if you're at someone's house though, you'd be on their Wi-Fi and you could just do it that way though. I don't know.
Yeah, or like use the code. So I was
Yeah,
just curious because I missed it once again.
I think it's just hotels.
Okay,
That's
neat.
interesting. There's no privacy levels for AirPlay, is there? If
There
you're in
are.
somebody's Wi-Fi,
So it's
you just
either, yeah, if you're on the same Wi-Fi network, it works. If you're not on the same Wi-Fi network, it can work if you turn it on or off. And then you can set a code on or off
oh,
for
cool.
those
That
different
makes sense.
scenarios.
Yep.
So like at home, I don't want other people on my Wi-Fi network. I have a guest
Of
Wi-Fi network,
course.
but the guest Wi-Fi network doesn't necessarily see any of my devices.
Yeah.
So I do have the Apple TV set to, if you happen to know my phone number, that's going to be the code. As like an easy way of like people who know me, they can access it. People who don't know me, it's like, well, tough luck. And then there doesn't
Robocallers.
have to be like an actual like code printed anywhere, since you need to be physically present and have that. I thought that was good enough. But yeah, a QR code would be an equally good
Hmm.
like alternative to that.
Yeah.
Talking about QR codes, tvOS 17 um, does not have QR codes, but it is on a TV. And it can do a few new things, like find your Siri remote finally.
Yeah. Is this does it have like an AirTag built in or is it
I
just
think it's just Bluetooth.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. That's great.
Yeah, finally. And then
Yep.
this is the big thing. Apple TV now has FaceTime, and you might be wondering, well, my TV does not have a camera. It's not like Apple's coming out with a TV. So, like, how does that work? Well, it uses continuity camera, that thing that was previously just for Macs. And you can just put a phone in front of your TV and like use that as the TV's camera. And I thought that was really, really cool. It's like finally connecting the dots, especially if you're in a big group and you want to like FaceTime someone else. This
Hmm.
is the solution to that. So I think that's cool.
I feel
Yeah.
in theory it works. I would have to look like actually try it out because like setting the phone there, it's either you're losing access to your phone because it's now the camera, so you can't do other things, or like
You're
at
on a
least
phone
in
call,
my.
Fernando. You're not supposed to be doing other things.
Of course, I'm supposed to be doing that. I can multitask, but the other the other arrangement is that it has to be at a decent enough distance that you're not like just
I
really far
mean,
away,
Well, it has
because
Stage
otherwise it
Manager.
feels weird.
So it
Well,
will
even
zoom in
will
and make
it?
you, yeah,
Like
it will
how?
zoom in.
I guess that's what I'm saying. Like I would need to actually try it out to see if it's like good or yet another iOS 17 gimmick.
Hmm.
Because the idea is really nice in theory.
Yeah.
I mean, you're farther away most definitely than if you were using continuity camera on your computer, right? You're a
Absolutely.
couple of feet away. So like I think that's fine. It seems like it does something to kind of center you in the frame and everything. So
So now my
yeah.
question. Are there any good MagSafe mounts that will work behind a TV? Because I don't have a shelf where my TV is. So there's like no great place to put the phone that's next to the screen that everyone's watching. So that would be my follow-up question. However, there is a second thing I wanted to bring up, and they didn't announce any of this in the keynote. However, there is a new framework called DockKit. And you might be wondering, well, dock, that's something on your phone, on your computer, or your iPad. But no, this is for those motorized docks that can move a phone, particularly so that way it can do camera tracking, which I would only assume would play a role when you walk off the screen. So that could be something that's really, really cool to play into this. Now, Apple didn't really talk about it, so there's probably a lot of missing details here, but I thought that was worth mentioning.
So like a gimbal type thing that follows you if you're on a call or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool.
I don't think there's anything else for tvOS. I think that was it, right?
Yeah, I think they updated the interface for like Control Center to make it easier to switch between profiles and stuff, but yeah, pretty minor stuff.
Yeah, does any... Spencer, I know you don't, but Fernando, do you ever switch profiles on an Apple TV?
I didn't even know you could do that.
That's been around for a couple years.
I need to make a phone call. I'll be right back.
But yeah, I feel like it's one of those weird things because TVs are like a shared experience. It's not something you're doing alone. So it's like, I don't see when I would ever be like watching a show that my wife is not watching, and therefore like be out of sync. Because I'm just not going to watch it if she's not watching. We're watching it together, right? If we're watching it together.
It makes sense for like kids that want to watch TV or whatever, but yeah.
And for example, my mother-in-law spends a lot of time here.
Yeah, that's the solution.
We do have, at the very least, different Netflix profiles. So different Apple TV profiles. Yeah, that's like
I don't know if the Apple TV profiles like link up to Netflix profiles or anything.
No, I don't think they do, right?
Which is unfortunate.
It's like completely different. Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate, but yeah.
Okay, anyways, on to watchOS. watchOS gets widgets, which is really cool. They show up in a smart stack. This is replacing that Siri smart face that kind of just automatically made up what it showed you down there. This gives you control. You make your smart stack and it will go ahead and show you stuff from that stack, which is thumbs up for me.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool that I thought that was really cool. You can have whatever face you want, but then it's like scroll up on the wheel and then you get that stack. That's kind of nice. Best of both worlds.
Yeah. And these widgets seem to be things that apps can make. I don't know if they're interactive. It's kind of small, so it doesn't really matter. But very cool. It seems like there's a new honeycomb layout. I don't know.
It looked like it. Yeah.
If they talked about it, but I caught a peek of it and I'm like, that looks different. So that's welcome. It seems like apps are watch faces now, or at least they use the same design language. And there has always been a setting on Apple Watches to not turn off the app that you're currently in to go back to the watch face. So maybe this is Apple's like subtle hints towards anyone else that like is making an app. Hey, if you want to make a watch face, you can like just make it as your app, and that's that. Though I don't think do apps get anything with the always on display like to be able to customize? I think they might. Oh. I remember stuff from SwiftUI like having control of like if it shows up on the always on. Anyways, I'm just speculating here. But yeah. There's a Snoopy face.
Yeah. Yes. Woo!
Joining the Mickey Mouse and the Pixar faces.
Yeah. Boo! Snoopy rules.
As far as other things into the health category, you can finally send files when you're cycling. You got some
transfer,
FTPs.
FTPs was so funny.
You got your power zones, and there was a lot of lingo that just like I was not well equipped for. But yeah, I don't know what those are other than file transfers. But I thought those were deprecated, so I'm confused. Clearly,
Look,
the
I'll be honest. This is one of the areas that Apple should expand as much as possible. I have no intention of doing cycling. If they can do it, more power to them.
I
Right?
mean, a really cool part of this was you get a synced phone display when you are cycling,
Yeah.
which is something I have personally done while like riding a bike a decade ago. Is put a phone, like find a way to mount a phone, mostly so I can watch movies. Not a good idea. But I was ill equipped to make good decisions back then. And you can see your stats, which is pretty darn cool. Instead of
Yeah.
having like a really small or dedicated device, you can use your phone, which is neat. There was some hiking stuff that I also kind of missed, and I think they said
Photography.
fast motion updates was like the big thing for golfing and tennis.
Yeah. That's cool.
Oh yeah, the wrist rotation
Uh-huh.
and yeah.
Yeah,
We're very, avid sportsers ourselves. So,
Oh,
Yeah,
we're
where's
so
we are
stoked.
definitely sportsers.
where's the gaming mode, right? Oh, it looks like you're playing Wii Sports. Let
Yeah.
me count your calories. Oh, your wrist rotation was like right?
That's what we need. Bring back Wii
Yeah.
Sports.
It looks like you found a Korok seed, whatever that means.
Yeah, haha.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Any case, we have a dedicated health section, which focused on mental health, which I thought was quite cool.
Yeah.
And then they immediately segued into something that I was not expecting, and that's because Spencer and I were talking about it literally last week about like why a lot of people wear glasses nowadays. In fact, 2 in 3 podcasters are wearing glasses. I
And
don't
three
know
out
if
of
that's a
three probably
stat.
need glasses.
I don't know if that's a hard stat, but basically, tons and tons of kids don't develop eyesight in a way that allows them to skip classes in their childhood and early adulthood before they get to the needing to wear reading glasses, and then those glasses get worse stage in life. Like it doesn't just get better; it's just like it gets worse on both directions. It's
Yeah.
horrible. In any case, this is a problem, as we have found out, because kids don't get enough time outside. Because it turns out you need those good old UVs, which the state of California is sure to remind you is known to cause cancer and birth defects.
Cancer, eyesight.
Yeah, you have to pick. It's very weird here in California. In any case, they basically say to develop eyesight better, you need to not spend all your time reading books, which is funny, and go outside. And Apple is hoping to help parents better track this by checking how much time your child is spending outside via the ambient light sensor on a watch, which is like a perfect little thing that they can do that they're uniquely positioned to track. Why not?
And they sold it like for the benefit of the children, which I can totally appreciate. But I'm sure people in northern countries like could actually use the whole like, oh, I need my vitamin D walk because
Oh
I've
yeah.
been on away from sunlight for like 18 hours. So
There's only
Yeah.
2 hours of it. Let me get it quick.
exactly.
Soak it in. At least they're soaking it in this way, right? We don't need to talk about those other people that soak it in from the other direction.
Oh my gosh.
Does anyone remember that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not going to go into details. You
most
can
definitely.
look it up on the internet, but there are crazy people out there that
What?
need to
You
soak
don't
in the
say.
light.
Oh.
They're replacing food with sunlight delivered via a specific direction. Any case, that is one tracking thing that the watch is now doing into the health app, and it makes me happy that I use a spare iPhone to set up an Apple ID and a health kit like log for my daughter, because I am tracking her weight in it, and she's going to go into adulthood and be able to scroll all the way back from
That's
day one.
What a concept. That's crazy, dude.
That's so nice. Get it?
Yeah.
Ah.
In any case, the other thing that it will start to be able to track is the distance that you are from your devices. Are you holding your iPad like this because you want a panoramic view of the YouTube video you're watching that is not in full screen because kids watch it not in full screen for some reason? Then that is something that the Face ID tracker thing will be able to track. I don't know how it's going to track it because Face ID doesn't work really well when it's like this close. Does it even know that you're that close?
Maybe that's how.
It's
not working, working,
too
right
close.
distance. Yeah. Yeah.
So I made some jokes when this came out. It's like I need to be able to see, which is why it's that close because I am blind. That is something that I hope is a good thing that can be used to track for kids to keep them kind of farther away. I think it just gives a gentle message like, hey, scoot back a little. Is that what it says?
Yeah.
Again,
something like that.
This is marketed for kids, but for the past 2 weeks, I've been having some massive headaches. And a few days ago, I realized it was because I was holding my phone too close. So this is actually and it's not even that I can't see. It was just I don't know, the habit of just being laying down or too close. And it's been a few days where I've increased the distance and the headaches have disappeared. So this is really overall a nice improvement. Yeah.
Yep. And that was it for the main updates, right?
I mean, yeah, main updates.
Yeah, the important ones. They're all out of the way. Which finally,
have a good week, guys. See ya.
Yeah, they were kind of closing it out, right? And I was like, well, that's that. Surprisingly enough, but they were doing it so that way they can have a one more thing, which is a classic Steve Jobsism, if you can call it that. And that one more thing was quite not surprising. We all saw it coming from a million miles away, but it was very exciting to see. And that is Apple's new AR platform, the XR Reality Pro Max Ultra.
Vision Pro. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the Apple Vision Pro, which is a much better name than the Reality Pro. What else did we come up with? There was XROS.
Bros. Which
Apple.
corrects to bros. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
so
it's
a thing. It's real.
a thing. I mean, okay. They spent a ton of time on it. Like we said, it was probably 1 hour straight of just this whole thing, or at least 45 minutes. It felt a long time, right? So I guess really what you could break it down into is it's a mixed reality headset. So that's a cool part where it's not just VR, but it's AR. So you can, it's got pass through. It has 6 or 8 cameras. It has a ton of cameras.
So it's primarily AR, right? That's its intended use is AR.
Yes. Yeah. Using it, and it's sort of it seems like it's basically going to be compatible, not really working well with any iPad app. So it's kind of, I mean, build an iPad app you could throw on the Reality Pro or the Vision Pro, sorry. But it has a couple cool other features, like you can look at your Mac screen and then your Macintosh's screen, and it will create a 4K display for it in this mixed reality, which is pretty cool. In the State of the Union, it talks about having Windows something in scenes.
I have a question for the 4K display. Is it 4K Retina or 4K non-Retina? And this is an important question because real estate, a 4K display at Retina, a retinarized, I don't know how you would say that. It's just a 1080p display, and those are tiny.
Sure.
There's not enough room to do anything on a 1080p display. But if it's a 4K display, and as real estate wise, that's more useful because it's essentially like an 8K showing 4K kind of thing. There's a lot there to work with. In fact, it's going to be more than a 6K display, right? Because a 6K is really a 3K at
Right.
2x.
Well, kind of along those lines, I don't think I'm quite getting at what you're looking for, but they mentioned that in the space of 1 pixel on an iPhone are 64 pixels in this headset. So the pixel density is going to be crazy, which kind of, I think I talked about this last week, or Dimitri did, I can't remember, but talking about like being able to sharply read text. And, if you're going to use this as an infinite canvas or a display for your Mac, like using Xcode, you need to be able to read text well. Like that's a huge thing. You can't just watch content on it. It needs to be sharp enough to be able to read and
I
not
think
have
it's
it be
true
aliased.
4K, like Retina 4K.
So an 8K canvas.
Yes,
Basically, yes.
Okay.
I think so. Otherwise, you're right. Like you'd go from the classic connect to your VGA monitor to like this huge and
Like
tiny.
yeah,
thing.
it's
It'd be
crisp at
weird.
1080, but it's not
Yeah.
a lot of space. But
Yeah,
if it's like a 8K display that you're plugging in and you're rendering it at 2x, then that's awesome, especially at the size that they're
I think,
I
presenting
think
it at.
so. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot like the infinite canvas. You can have like multiple apps on a kind of panorama around you. I didn't really see them doing anything like vertically, like stacking 2 apps vertically. So I wonder if there's some sort of limitation, if it's just kind of a
No, they
left
did
to right thing.
right on the desktop.
Yeah, they showed, and we can get into this later. But they showed like windows that are just like
Mhm.
and a panorama around you, but also
okay.
volumes of things that are in front of you. And the volumes
that's
are the
right.
things that are more like stacked.
Okay.
And I think you can tilt. Like they did show a few things that were like a little bit more tilted. So
So I have a question. I was like during this whole section, unfortunately, I had to do a bunch of parenting, but
parenting strikes
Ew.
again.
yeah, is it like are the windows fixed in a geographical position, so to speak, or are
You
you
can move them
bringing them
around.
over
I
with
think
your?
they're stuck to where you put
Oh.
them. Like if you move your
They're
head,
stuck.
they don't
Uh-huh.
move with you. So
Right.
they're not like a little heads up display. They are fixed in space.
So what is the limit for that? Like, can I have
Like
my
put some in one room and
apps
then
on my
walk to a
desktop?
different
Yeah,
room.
yeah.
That'd be so cool.
Like, I don't know what the limit to it is. Like, where is all that info being stored in the AR?
Like honestly, there's no real limit to that, right? Because if it's not in view, it doesn't need to be rendered. It doesn't need to do anything. You can just sit
There's
there.
a limit
just
to
have to store it in
everything,
memory.
Dimitri.
Yeah.
In
I
this
know
law-
that
in this
personally.
house-
I know that, but like I think that limit is going to be reasonably large.
Yeah.
That is interesting. You're right.
Because you have your work stuff in your office, right, and then living
Sure.
room stuff elsewhere.
Because
Like,
it would be very cool to have, like, I don't know, like the weather on your bathroom, and like you
Yeah,
can
that'd
just
be
walk
cool.
into it, and okay, like I'm envisioning the whole thing, like the
visionOS
whole.
too. I have a feeling a lot of that is
Map-
probably going to come in the next year or
Like
two.
map
Oh,
your
absolutely.
whole house.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. So I guess a cool thing is like you interact with things by essentially looking at it. It has, well, it does have foveated rendering, which we talked about probably a bunch of episodes, but you look at things and it sort of highlights it like you would on an Apple TV by
Wiggling your thumb on the thing.
yeah, or on an
On the
iPad.
nothing, you just wiggle the thumb.
Yeah, and then you kind of, so yeah, it has like downward facing cameras, so you're not having, like we talked about last week, you don't have to be like this right in front of your face
Right.
and interacting, but you're kind of down at the side of your, and pinching or
Not
whatever,
even
so.
down at the side. They just showed people just having their arm lazily on the couch and then just like
That's cool,
no
man.
attention at all. I can
I
imagine people like not like putting their hand physically like obfuscated by something that the cameras cannot see and be like, why isn't it not working? Like it's just like too far behind a pillow kind of thing.
Well,
Because they're
that's
just
what I
so
was going
used
to
to it,
say.
right?
Like
Yeah.
like the opportunity for Minority Report gloves was lost. I will mourn those forever. Like just the 3-fingered things with like the fingertips. You guys like?
I've never seen it.
I'm
sorry.
thinking
Oh
more of
my
the
God.
power
I know of
Nintendo
it.
Power Gloves.
The power
No,
glove.
not that
Well,
far. They're basically
did
just
you-
like fingertip. like LEDs that you would set and then
Oh.
like
Did you
magically.
catch their like dig it? They're like, there's no need for clunky controllers, and I was like, oh shoot, just dunking on
I mean, they were
literally
dunking
every
when
other
they
headset.
said crisp text. What other VR goggles
That's
have
true.
crisp text?
Yeah.
So like I distinctly remember that being a key criticism as of the technology
Mhm.
itself. Like no one has it.
Yeah.
So of course Apple's going to come in, and I don't know how crisp it's going to be. Honestly, 4K like vertical for everything that you can see with one eye is not enough. So I don't know exactly what they're doing to make up for that.
That's fair.
Because like this screen right in front of me is only taking up a small like angle of what I can see out of my eyes, and I can barely like pick out pixels because I got a good prescription on my glasses.
Yeah.
And if I can see pixels there, I'm definitely going to see pixels if it's 4K stretched from horizon to horizon of what my eye can rotate, right?
Yeah.
So even with foveated rendering, you still need the actual physical pixels there
Yes,
to
definitely.
render something at a super high resolution. You're just not rendering it all the time. You're just rendering at a very low resolution for the periphery and then high resolution for what you're looking at.
They
So this
they
is going to be
didn't
interesting
mention
to see what this is going to be.
Yeah. They didn't mention anything about the viewing angles, did they?
They did not.
Very few
Yeah.
technical details, like actual
Yeah,
technical details. Very few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some more things about the UI. There's 3D icons everywhere, like we mentioned for the Apple TV. You can look at a field and just start talking to type, which is amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Like I have been okay. Fernando's shaking his head, but as someone who has been entirely occupied walking around a room in figure eights, I would very much enjoy having a thing strapped to my face that I can just look at a field and just start typing. Because I've
Do
been
you mean
wanting
like
to
start
type a
typing
whole.
on a keyboard?
No, it's just talk to type.
It's like text to or speech to text.
Yeah.
Then no. Then I'm still shaking my head.
There is a keyboard.
Yeah, you can have a
kinda
virtual
looked a little
keyboard, you can
dinky,
have a
but-
real keyboard,
Yeah.
or you can just
Yeah.
talk. Like those are the three kind of inputs.
Eye tracking plus real keyboard. That's big yes. A big yes for me. Eye tracking
I would
plus
use a real
speech
keyboard.
to text is like, hey Siri, type my name. Hey, I found these results on the web for type my name. It's gonna be. I don't know. I don't like Siri's. To me, is dead. So
Okay, honestly,
Yeah, that's fair.
have you used the dictation that's available?
it's
since March?
amazing.
That's what
Dictation
it
is
would
really
be.
good.
That's what it would be.
I'm taking a cheap jab at Siri because I
Okay.
hate her.
All of this, look, man, it's so funny that they're just like cramming all of this technology into a headset and everything that they do, and then like Siri still sucks after
Yes,
since
Yeah.
the iPhone 4S.
So
In any case, now we have our chance to start talking about the goofy things. The goofy things.
Oh my
Ooh.
god!
And
dude.
I'm calling them goofy because I don't think that they're quite uncanny valley enough to like cause problems, but they do look goofy. And we have to talk about that. The first is eyesight, which is a brilliant name for what they're calling this thing. But basically, it will project what you look like on the goggles, so that way people know that you're looking at them rather than looking at someone with goggles. And something like this is 100% necessary. I don't know if this is the solution. And I think the part that makes this extra goofy is the fact that it is ever so blurry. And the reason it's ever so blurry is not a stylistic thing. It's because there's a lenticular lens. And for those who don't know what that is, do you remember those cards that you would go back and forth and have like a holographic image? That's what it is, except it's not showing the holographic image in front of the card, it's showing it behind, namely behind the screen, so it looks like it's on your face. So physically, it looks like you are looking through the goggles at someone's eyes, and it's a little weird how they're doing this. They're facially reconstructing your face via a scan and then your eye movements to complete this illusion, and it's interesting. It's something that's necessary. I don't know. I don't know
Unnecessary.
how best they could have done this.
I wouldn't have done it at all.
I'm sure
Yes!
there's an option to turn it off. Like there has to be an option to turn it off.
I hope so.
And
Alright, let's-
I see them showing all this right now as a way of testing the waters to see what people are going to think about
That's
that.
fair.
Because they clearly are sold on it, right? They've used it enough internally that they felt that something like this was absolutely necessary, to the point that they wasted money on an external display with a fancy
Yeah.
3D lenticular display, so that way it looks physically three-dimensional, right?
So, yes, I will say two things. One, I think we all can agree, like, Apple has a really high bar for quality.
Yeah.
Like, I will gladly, even though I'm going to rip them apart, I will gladly give them all the benefit of the doubt and swallow back my words when and if I have one of those, because I'm going to be like, okay, they make the right choices. Like, we can all agree they have a really high bar.
Sure.
At the same time, it's like, it's stupid as can be. I don't think it's necessary, like that and the facial reconstruction. Like, let's just
Yeah.
not do that. It's okay. Like, just let's, like, there's no
The,
photo there. That's fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's really okay. Like,
I mean, they
I
do,
don't know.
They do have Memoji. Memoji would have
Exactly.
been perfect.
Exactly,
Yes!
dude. That's what.
Like,
Yes.
at least for the FaceTime. So we didn't talk about FaceTime, but you can use this for FaceTime calls, and that's an excellent thing. However, to everyone else, you show up as this like little blurry 3D hologram,
Yeah.
which might be cool. Like, we're only seeing it via a presentation. We're not seeing it in person.
Sure.
In person,
Sure.
this might be like something so mind-blowingly cool to the nerds in us, right? It's like, it's a 3D little, like, holograph, right? It might be the coolest
Yeah.
thing. We don't know. We haven't played with this.
We
No
don't
one
know.
has access to these. But I think the goofiest part about this is to take the scan. You need to pull the goggles off and do this. You need to look at them to get scanned. Like, out of all the pieces of technology Apple has at their disposal, that was the solution to scanning yourself.
Yeah.
Does
To
it
me-
reflect like a mirror so you can see what you're looking?
It's very weird. Yeah. To me, I don't know. Psychologically, to me, there is a creepiness, and this is
Yes.
obviously stupid because I have Face ID on, but there is a psychological leap that happened here with, like, why are they scanning my face to reconstruct it? Like, it's very creepy to me. It's very creepy. You don't need to scan my face to reconstruct it. Like,
At least they don't have a camera inside. I think Facebook showed this off at one point where they did put the googly eyes, but they just had a camera of your actual eyes and they just like zoomed them up. It was like extra bad. This looks like at least it's a transparent thing. In fact, I thought initially it was a transparent thing before they like showed it for another 20 minutes. Like, it did not click for me immediately that was a display that I was looking at from the footage that they're showing.
You know there are cameras on the inside, though, right?
There's an IR camera, not a
full camera,
not a full color camera.
Yeah.
So, like that, it did not look like there was a camera taking a picture of someone's eyes and just like blasting them there.
Oh yeah.
that other I didn't. Can you run a little bit like quickly through the whole, like, I didn't get what the inner camera does.
So the inner camera does eye tracking
for like the foveated rendering.
But they said something about like scanning. So it's just
it's optic ID. So it's like
it uses your iris as a authentication.
Yeah.
Again, like, this is hypocritical because I have Face ID, but like scanning my iris is like, it's creepy.
It's like Mission Impossible, man.
I don't think anyone sees this creepy. I think people would think this is cool. It's future technology from movies. I don't think it's gone into creepy for most people. The creepy part is when you need to do this on I fully think Apple has proved themselves with biometric data. The creepy part is needing to do this on anything else. Like my work once saying that, hey, to get access to the server cage, you need to put your thumbprint on this. I don't want to give my thumbprint to a thing to get to a server cage. That means that someone can cut off my thumbprint for that. I don't care for my phone at all.
I think I agree. I think the creepy part of this is like the reconstruction part. Like, scan my face for like authentication, sure, but like the reconstruction for Face ID or for FaceTime and the pass through, that's weird to me. It just doesn't look right. I think for me, it is in the uncanny valley. It is just like I don't know.
But even then, and I think this is a matter of trust, and I don't. It's just a first impression because I haven't like actually gathered my emotions and my feelings all together and sifted through them. But like it just feels like how much more like I agree, and I have nothing against saying that we've trusted Apple with a lot of our biometric data and they've held their end of the bargain. I'm just worried, like how much more, because I gave them my face to get into my phone. Now I gave them my face so that they can do it 3D scanning, and I'm giving them my irises. So it's like, is it better than to them than to Facebook? Yes.
Yeah.
Do I need to give it to them? I don't know.
Again, you might
Weird.
not need to, right?
Yeah. Maybe it's just if you want to lock it.
Yeah, so I am reasonably sure the Optic ID is just like Face ID. It's a convenience to get in, right? So you don't need that. You can just choose to do it via passcode.
That makes sense.
So
I like that.
If you can choose to never need to do a passcode, and that's like a key difference, right? Then
maybe it's like a use your iPhone to get
that'd be neat,
to
or your
authenticate
watch
for your app store.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then for the scanning, that's purely for like FaceTime / this eyesight. So I imagine you can choose not to do that, right? That is a choice, and then it won't show eyes, and that's just that. That's your choice as a introverted person to not communicate back to someone that you're like giving them your attention. That's a choice that you would make. Perhaps you don't ever need to do that, but if you do need to do that, then I think this is a welcome addition. Besides that, right, to prevent you from needing to do that, because from your point of view, you see fine, right? And then someone calls your attention, you turn, all they see are these black ski goggles pointing their direction, and that's not necessarily an indication that like you're
have paying your attention to them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whereas if you are looking at them and then it detects that and therefore will show your eyes through, that is really cool. Especially if they're not showing your eyes when you're like looking at something else, that indicates that they don't have your attention. And this works both ways. Like if someone's talking to you and you're reading a text, then like that would indicate that, and I think that's the proper thing to do. I think them like faking it 100% would have been more problematic. The fact that they are like easing in and out of these different states, I think is the right social thing to do for this kind of device, especially when you would otherwise be oblivious to it, right? It's not like you're going to remember to do this when you can see through it, right?
How can you see through it?
It sees the world around you and it's streaming that inside of them.
Perfect, because that solved one of the questions that I had, where it mentioned that you could dim everything.
Oh yeah,
and I was like, how are they doing that if it's see through? But clearly, it is not.
It's not see through.
So
no.
then that's
it's all pass through cameras.
Very cool.
Yeah, so they have full fidelity for whatever they're projecting in front of you, which means it's not going to be all transparent or anything like a HoloLens.
But wait, so there are like front-facing cameras.
Yeah, there's like 6 cameras on the front.
It's all cameras.
And like a LiDAR sensor. Yeah, I mean it's...
I guess I'm just not made for these kinds of products. Like I remember ripping apart the Google lenses because they had a camera. So if you had them, you would be like, you could take screenshots or pictures of video of whoever, and it'd be hard for them to notice. I wonder if Apple solved that. Like, I wouldn't mind. I think the issue there is just a matter of like expectations and whether a recording is going on. So if there's like a huge red light saying like I'm recording, I don't mind that.
Which is what I think they're doing. So I think Google Glass came out too early Like, we
Yeah,
weren't prepared for
definitely.
this.
Definitely.
Yes.
If they had come out now, no one would have bat an eye towards always recording everything. In fact, if you've gone to a glasses shop, I don't know if you've seen the fancy Snapchat Ray-Bans that are essentially
Yeah.
that. Always on
Oh.
camera. No one talked about that. No one is
There's like a
worried at all, right?
That's horrible.
yeah, I think it's Meta or Facebook, whatever, that does the Ray-Bans. But I think when you maybe it's the Snapchat ones or the Ray-Bans, I don't know. But it's like right here,
Mhm.
and then there's a little spinning indicator when you are recording, if I remember right,
If they
on
want
one of
to.
them.
So that
Okay.
Oh,
I don't know. Like, it just depends, right? Who knows with that device? But no one cares at this point whether people are walking around with cameras, because people are walking around with cameras all the time anyways. Like,
Fair,
it's kind of escaped our social like worry space.
I don't know
That-
about that. Like, I think that's a very American point of view. I'm sure a lot of Europeans would disagree heavily with that. Like, I'm very aware of, like, it's very obvious if someone is recording, right?
Sure.
Whereas it's not obvious if they're like doing it from the stupid thing. I mean, even that is sort of obvious. Where I'm like, if we're having a conversation and you have your phone there, at least there is a sense of expectation, like there's a camera right there, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's wrong. Like, I agree the window has moved
Mhm.
so far to, like, I'm being recorded that it's becoming normal.
And
But
that's just
still-
one part of it. The second part of it is Apple also went and has a mode, like when you're recording, I think your finger needs to like touch the device itself. Like, you can't
That's
just
great.
record
That's
like,
excellent.
via the UI, like just in space. I don't think you can.
Yeah, there's a button like I think
And
specifically
it did
for
like a little
capture.
like white back and forth, like it's like scanning.
Neat. Nice.
So you
Nice.
have like all three things in its favor. This is the right time for something like that to exist with its 8 bajillion cameras, which is like 7 more
Yeah,
than
dude.
what the Google Glass had. Like, this thing is recording in such high fidelity that nothing other than that device is really seeing much of any of it,
Mhm.
which is great. That's what we want. And including apps, right? Apps don't see what is around you, and that is what
Right.
we want.
Yeah,
like, we don't
that
want
was sweet.
we don't want, as app developers, I don't want access to what the user is seeing. I just want to be able
Yeah.
to put stuff in that space, and let the
Yep.
user decide where it goes. Like, that's totally fine by me. And I think that's the right balance here.
Yeah.
And as long as it has social cues for everyone else, and this includes like when it's recording, when they're paying attention to others, I think it's doing its job, right? It's fitting into an existing ecosystem, at least long enough for once we all get to the point where we're all wearing something like this, where no one's paying attention to anyone anymore. Then, like, everything's out the door. Like, life has moved on, unfortunately. But until that point, I
You
think
don't even recognize who it is because you're all wearing the same goggles. So.
I mean, it won't be goggles at that point. It'll just be glasses, and it looks like you're
That's
looking at
fair.
someone and they're not even paying attention, right? That's our distant future.
Did all of this presentation feel very Black Mirror to either of you? Like,
No,
it felt
honestly.
a lot of the things that were going on. I was like, oh wow, this is like, it almost felt like fake. Like, this is truly we're living
it's a
in the
jump.
future.
Yeah, it is
Right?
definitely like a big jump.
Mhm.
Like, oh wow.
Okay, so
I
like
mean-
going on. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say the part that it felt like this is future tech, brings me back to anime, right? The whole you need to scan your face reminded me immediately of the start for Sword Art Online, where you need to scan yourself to use the thing so it calibrates, right? And the whole joke there was once the game got hijacked, everyone got reverted to their actual self. And they couldn't just like live out their fake persona. They had to live out their real persona in the game because they scanned their real persona. So that's the only like dark
That's
sci-fi
true,
that
yeah.
I got from this, but it was more out of like excitement rather than like fear or anything. I was like, oh yeah, isekai time. I'm ready for this. Anyways, Fernando, back to your serious thought.
I mean, I feel there's a ton of like different, like, there's a sad undertone, maybe because I'm the depressed kind of person. I'm not, but like, okay, I'm just gonna sit in a room, which I don't know. It's this whole psychological jump of like, we already sit in rooms just like
Yeah.
watching things, but now it's like you don't need to sit in a room. You can be like, I'm just gonna put this thing here, dim everything, and just like disconnect from
Yeah.
everything, right?
I mean, yeah, someone at work mentioned like maybe in 5-10 years time, like you won't be watching a movie on a TV, you'll just have these. And it's like it's kind of the same thing. You close the blinds, you turn off the lights, and you watch a movie. But I think I agree, there's like this psychological hurdle to get over. And that probably happened with people with TVs back in the day,
It
right?
happened with
Where it's
people
like,
reading newspapers. Like, it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
the march of
yeah,
progress, and it's uncomfortable for
yeah,
us, right? Because
agreed.
it's different. But we've already started making the jump away from movie theaters to just TVs, right? I'm not going to go to a
yeah.
movie theater anymore. Why? Like, my TV is excellent. I'm not going to watch TV anymore. Why? This AR thing is excellent, right?
Yeah.
It's just going
I
down the
agree.
rabbit hole. As long as it doesn't spend 2 decades spinning its wheels, kind of like the iPad. I don't know if it's been 2 decades, 1 decade. Spinning its wheels, kind of like the iPad, like not fulfilling the vision that it could have.
Yeah.
Then there's a chance
Vision.
for it, right? Uh huh.
But no, you're right. I mean, I think this is the first time I've ever felt like the technology could easily work against us as it could for us. Which again, it's really a psychological thing. Like, addiction to video games is already a thing. Addiction to like internet browsing, it's already a thing. It just feels like this is a turning point in the sense that I don't know. I guess I'll need to come back next week when, yeah.
It's a new, I mean, it's like a brave new world, right? It's a
Yes.
completely new frontier. So
Yeah.
I get that. But talking about a potential benefit, one thing that I thought was so cool was like we were talking about, it's pass through. So you're on an airplane. You don't want to look at the person next to you.
Yes.
You close out, it's like
Yes.
a full environment, and you just watch a big screen movie. That's so cool, dude.
So,
Uh,
question:
Huge practical use.
the speakers, are those bone induction speakers, or are they just
Yeah,
speakers
that's a good
next to your
question.
ears?
I
It
don't think so.
seemed
So
right. It seemed they were right beside your ears.
yeah, Andrew Madsen. I was talking to him at work. He said he's tried the Hollow, like the HoloLens 2, I think it is. They have similar speakers right there, and he was shocked at how high fidelity they
Well,
sounded
you
just by
only need
being
two
around your
inputs,
ears.
to be fair.
Yeah, no, I know, but like, yeah, I don't know.
So I
But
think,
I noticed you can also put in AirPods or whatever, and just connect it that way.
yeah, I guess if you wanted the noise canceling too, because that's what I was gonna say. If you truly want to block out an airplane, that's not
Yeah,
gonna be enough. But with
sure,
a
yeah.
nice extra purchase of AirPods, that
Hey,
is just like chump change compared to the price of this thing, then you can definitely go ahead and do that. One thing I was
yeah.
very surprised about, they are bringing back 3D movies, which I find hilarious, but also terrifying.
Dude,
Um,
like the only 3D movie to have come out in the last decade is the second Avatar movie, and the one previous to that was the first Avatar
you'll be
movie.
surprised how many movies are like remastered in 3D after being
Oh, that's
shot.
so gross, dude.
But yeah, 3D movies. I guess it's a good thing they're being remastered all this time because now there's an outlet for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not crazy about 3D movies because the biggest problem for me is not the 3D aspect of it. It's the fact that whatever you're looking at does not render. Meaning, if you're looking at the background, it's not like the background comes in focus just because you're looking at it. You're looking at a blurry background because that's the way it was
Right.
shot. And you have no way around that. And these are not going to fix that for you. So I
Right.
hope if you are choosing to watch media that you've purchased, like on iTunes or whatever, you have the option to not watch the 3D version of it and just watch the 2D version of it. Because oftentimes those are a lot more less headache inducing if you tend to be the kind of person like Fernando. You had the thing too close. You were focusing a little too close for what your
Right.
eyes were comfortable doing, and therefore that was causing a headache. Same for 3D movies for me, for instance. If I watch a 3D
Yeah.
movie for more than 20 minutes,
Yeah.
I'm going to get a
Yeah.
headache just from that.
Same.
And it's not has nothing to do with anything else other than the focus. So if my eyes are going to try to focus something that can't be focused, that's going to be a problem. I wonder how that's going to work for the rest of the device. But it does support prescription lenses, which is what we were hoping for. And I was especially hopeful when the first person, Tim Cook, had glasses, and the next person, I forget his name, had glasses. I'm like, this thing is going to support glasses.
No, yeah,
in
that's
some
true.
capacity. Apple's not doing it though. They are partnering
Yeah.
with another company to make those actual lenses. So Apple is going to get $3,000. Another company is going to get $1,000. Your wallet's going to be very empty by the end of this. But that was
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, what sucks though, I was thinking about that and I'm like, my prescription changes every year,
Ouch.
even if it's slightly. So that's a hard pill to swallow, because like, what do you do with the old ones? You can't. No one has the same prescription as me. You know what I
Maybe
mean?
you can lease them.
Lease them or sell like
like
one on
camera
eBay.
optics.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Oh man.
Well, that's what
But,
glasses
yeah,
stores do, right? They recycle your
Yeah.
glasses and give them to countries in need. So maybe
That's fair.
recycle your lenses, give them to an Apple Vision Pro user in need.
We need, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
It's-
yeah, because they're
it's the
probably
Vision
bankrupt
co-op.
from buying it.
It's like, oh, anyone
Yeah.
have a 4.5? 4.5? I'll trade you a 5 for a 4.5.
Yeah.
Hey,
Well, it's usually
that's
like
an
the
app idea.
rotation. Yeah.
Just build the website.
There you go. Fernando's thinking big money here.
Yeah.
Except there's no money.
At
We're
least
trading.
$1.
At least
mean,
$1.
You're probably right that the what is it, like 30 people their thing when they were mentioning the UV exposure thing was like 30% of
Up to
everyone
50% of all people. That's the projected number.
Well, yeah,
which is
Oh, for
crazy.
Yeah, but,
myopia.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah.
I'm sure within
Yeah.
like the tech sphere, it's way more than the
Well,
average.
yeah, we're all the
for
people
sure.
that stayed inside.
I mean, it's a good market, I'm sure.
Fernando had some sunlight, clearly, but we didn't.
A little bit.
Yeah, I was definitely the one staying inside reading, so that you hit me hard.
Anything else here? They showed dinosaurs. Go watch Prehistoric Planet. The second season just came out. It is awesome.
Oh, cool.
I watched the first one. Definitely amazing. Like, incredible.
Is it on Apple TV Plus?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. It just came out like literally weeks ago.
Oh.
And I imagine
guess,
this is an excellent time to have 3D dinosaurs for a Vision thing. Just saying, Apple, you have the models.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
And
They, I guess the interesting thing hardware-wise is like, it's not two M2s, it's an M2 and a new
R1.
R1 chip. So specific for whatever spatial, I don't know. I wasn't paying a ton of attention. I just, heard R1. I was like, oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, I believe they said it's constantly processing the surroundings for positioning and stuff like that. So that's always on.
Okay.
It's always doing its thing. And on the idea of it always being on, this thing will last 2 hours on battery.
Yeah.
And on battery, I should know, is a puck, roughly the size of your phone, that goes in your pockets. This thing does not have MagSafe. It has a click-in power, so it doesn't click out, because I don't think it has much runtime on its own. I think it probably is on the order of minutes to swap.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got to imagine though, like if you're going to, I don't know, be sitting at a couch or something, there's probably like a wall outlet one that you can just click in, so and it's like unlimited power.
They say it's,
I mean,
2 hours on battery, or as long as you want powered. That's what they said on the website.
2 hours on battery and 6 if you're plugged in.
It keeps draining faster than the
consumes 1800 watts.
So
no, but like Spencer was saying, like that. This is a first gen product. Yeah. Like if I'm in my living room, there are no like power plugs nearby, or usually they're hidden away like behind the couch.
Just have a
So-
huge like 20-foot extension cable.
I think Spencer was
Yeah.
giving the
To your
opposite
couch.
example, right? If you're in the living room, you have the thing in your couch to plug in.
Well,
right?
I have one right here, but this room is small. But yeah, in my living room, I definitely don't.
Put another way, you'll find a way to get a thing into your couch if you're using it.
Reality OS finds a way.
I mean,
Yeah.
just buy 10 batteries and that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
That's
such a
something
bad
I've done.
solution.
Keep
For-
swapping them.
Back when laptops only lasted 2 hours, and this was the official number, and the actual number was much lower. And you could change the batteries.
Yeah.
And I actually, the moment I bought my laptop, I bought 3 extra batteries because they were hot
Dang.
swappable, and that was like the coolest
Yeah.
thing. You just pop off the back plate, pull out the battery, put in a new battery, and you can continue working for another hour or so. Because that's all it lasts. But you had 4 at that point.
Right.
So I imagine with
4
this,
whole hours.
that's also something that people are going to consider.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting.
It's there. I mean, there's a lot here, and that's cool. But the I guess final thing to talk about is the price, which is pretty brutal. I was
Do you think?
getting pretty hyped up for it, and then I heard the price, and I was like, "Not for me, not right now." $34.99.
I mean, it is cheaper than 6 Pro Display XDRs.
Here, it's cheaper than 1 Pro Display XDR. Doesn't mean I'm gonna buy it.
And it
I
is
think it's-
technically more pixels for your computer, right?
It's true.
I think it's priced right. Like the
I'm not I'm not
Right?
surprised at the price after going through this whole thing. Like 6 camera, like I mean, it has a ton of hardware.
Yep.
It just still sucks, and I'm bummed that I'm not going to buy it.
The question that might change Spencer's mind: if you're using your Mac on this thing, does it come with a curved display? Like, can you curve the window and it's not just a
Yeah.
flat
That'd
plane,
be
Well,
but a
cool.
curved
I was
plane?
thinking, can I squish the display so it's a 32:9 aspect ratio? Does it have to be 16:9? Yeah, and if it's only one display extra, you know what I mean? Like it's not really an infinite canvas on the macOS mode. It looks like it's just like your screen,
Mhm.
and that's it, which is a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
To be determined.
I would say last thing I wanted to mention was the micro LED display that they're using for each eye is on an Apple Silicon backplane. So this is the first Apple Silicon
Yeah.
non-computing chip, but a display chip.
So are they manufacturing the whole display, do you think? Like the whole thing?
Or not manufacturing, but they designed the specification for that display, and they're just having someone else print it.
Someone okay.
Basically. So that is really cool. It will work with all iPhone and iPad apps. I think we mentioned that. So it's coming into day one with tons of functionality, which I don't think any of the competition really had other than games up until now. So that's really great. The camera stream was 12 milliseconds between the outside world and what you're seeing. So hopefully not too nauseating. That's the only latency related thing that they mentioned. So that's we're hoping for the best.
They didn't mention refresh rate or anything at all, did they?
No.
That's scary.
Yep. And there's a new Reality Composer Pro, which will help developers make apps for this, or more specifically, make 3D content for this.
Very cool.
That's welcome. This week's episode of Code Completion is brought to you by Not Pho. Tired of eating the same old meals time and time again? Consider Vietnamese food. You might already know of pho, but there are tons of other flavors specific to Vietnamese cuisine that are sadly not well known around the world. This includes everything from sandwiches like banh mi, rice plates like com tam, and even the deliciously savory crepes known as banh xeo. That's where the app Not Pho comes in. It's a free-to-try app dedicated to teaching you more about the wonders behind Vietnamese cuisine, brought to life with colorful and interactive illustrations and animations. Learn how to make many classic Vietnamese flavors at home, but even if you don't cook, you'll know how to order like a pro the next time you visit your local Vietnamese restaurant. Recently new is version 1.2, which brought a brand new home screen to the app featuring a recipe of the week and a map of Vietnam, allowing you to start exploring recipes by region as well. Thanks again to Not Pho for sponsoring our show. Search for Not Pho, that's N-O-T space P-H-O, on the App Store today to give it a try completely for free. So this week we don't have a code completion tip, we just have the State of the Union, which came right after the keynote. And this is Apple's time to kind of overview everything that's new for developers, because the keynote, frankly, has become a very public facing event, and they mention us by name from time to time. They say developers will use this, developers will use that, but for the most part, it's like what you can expect out of your favorite OSs, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so we've been talking about this for a while. Swift macros are coming, so that's awesome. Uh, Super excited about that. I think that is, yeah. I mean, yeah, we've been talking about it for a while, but it'll open up a bunch of functionality to. Well, yeah. I mean, some things that we'll talk about later, but just in general, you can just write whatever macros you want. And, there were some cool things like showing you can basically I guess would you call it like debugging the macros or viewing what actually
Yeah,
what is generated from the
super
macros? That
cool.
was
So if
way
you're
cool.
using a debugger and you've used macros in the past, like with C, good luck. There's no tooling around that. It's just going to be like, forget about it. What's happening here is Xcode will go ahead and detect that you're debugging, of course, and it will show you the expanded macro, so you actually see what it's looking at line by line when it is jumping into your code. So that is very, very welcome,
Yeah.
and not at all expected, despite the fact that we knew macros were coming for quite a while. I have a random question. Are the iMacs that they're presenting with the same ones from last year? Because they had
It looked like
colorful
it, yeah.
iMacs all over the WWDC kind of presentation. I'm wondering if those are the same exact computers. Not the same model.
Oh,
We know they're the same model. Are they the same computers that they used last year?
I don't think Apple has the budget to be changing computers every year, Dimitri.
Because I know for the displays at WWDCs, those were all Mac Minis, and in the past they were Power Mac G5s that were not being used. That they
Oh,
had
wow.
running all the displays of like, what's next in this session. There was a Power Mac G5 in the box,
Nice.
cheese grater style, and later Mac
Yes,
Pros, like
dude.
whatever was not being used. So I'm wondering,
Mhm.
they clearly got the iMacs for all those presentations because they're very colorful and nice looking. Now they're probably just reusing those iMacs, right?
Probably.
Okay. Uh, Back to what's actually new. We got SwiftUI improvements to animations and maps,
Yeah.
which is super, super
Maps.
cool. We had animated SF symbols. Like, who was expecting that? Not me.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We can say
Very cool.
goodbye to state object, observable object, all the complexities from SwiftUI. You just have at state, you have at environment, and then you have observability, which we talked about and we remarked last week does not have an implementation yet. Well, it turns out Apple is coming in clutch with an implementation of observable
Yeah, dude.
for everyone to use days after the last pitch was like and like
Yeah.
improved.
Second pitch.
So
Yeah.
that was very interesting to see coming. And for those who don't know, that basically means that any object that subscribes to this what's it called, macro, will
Macro.
get a bunch of functionality for free via generated code. So that's super, super cool and very welcome. It replaces it completely. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's getting rid of all the dynamic nature of this and building it in statically when you need it. Yeah.
Yeah. Big. Yeah. Like Dimitri said, big for, I don't know. SwiftUI is awesome. And like, it's hard to understand sometimes. So like getting rid of state object, observable object, all of those things and just kind of having one unified thing is like so good.
Very welcome. The thing that macros really enabled this year, though, is something that people have been asking for forever, and that is Swift Data. So it's still built on core data, but it promises to not be complicated and be simple and straightforward to use, like most of the Swift language. So that's a thing.
Yeah, looks pretty cool. You no longer do you need to, you know, write your model out and then have to go into a whatever it's called, XC data model file or whatever, and
generate code like
write
a
it
monster.
again. Yeah. So pretty cool.
Pretty happy,
Looked,
honestly.
yeah, Fernando was freaking out.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
Yeah, I mean,
Dimitri perhaps a little sad.
Yeah, I'll talk about that and comment it out. But
Okay.
Swift data is still based on reference types, and it still seems to have all of the usual core data shenanigans for like
Yeah.
the basic setup. So maybe my thing still has life. We will see. So that's
It
going to be
looked-
interesting.
I can't remember if you said it or if or I know that people at my work said it, but they were looking into it a little bit. It looks like it's pretty compatible with like an existing core data
It's 100% compatible.
stack. So you could like use both,
Mhm.
kind of, you know, pick and choose whatever you want. So like for us, we use core data, but you know, for anything new, we could just go and use Swift data.
that'd be
and not have
amazing.
to
Yeah.
have two databases going on
Yeah.
or anything. So that's cool.
So one thing to keep in mind, they mentioned, you get free CloudKit syncing. This is via the
Yeah.
core data CloudKit syncing, so that's
Oh,
the
no.
giant
Right.
asterisk. Or
Yeah.
you could save it to file and have iCloud Drive sync it for you,
no.
which is the other version of the syncing. So I'm only half giving them slack for that, because my thing would also work fine with iCloud Drive, unlike Git repos. So
Yeah.
that is not a bad version for syncing. In fact, I sync tons of things via iCloud Drive. So something to consider there. WidgetKit
Yeah.
is getting a bunch of updates, namely for interactive widgets. There are continuity widgets, which is actually
Yeah.
awesome. Widgets
That's
from your
cool.
phone on your computer. Thumbs up for me.
Very cool.
To trigger the explosions. There are widget timelines in the previews.
Yeah.
Also very cool. App intents got overhauled again for the 20th time.
They gotta get it.
There's TipKit, which is very much welcome by, I think, every
That's cool.
developer, because every
Yep.
developer has written their own version of TipKit at least 3 times.
Very cool. Very cool.
Very welcome, because that means we can finally stop rewriting them.
Yeah,
we can just go with
yep.
one format, and as Apple changes whatever TipKit is in the future, they'll just continue using the same data, which is ideal. And then, as we mentioned, AirDrop without a share sheet. Those were like the main headlining things, right?
Yep. And those are like some pretty good improvements. I'm overall very happy with that. I mean, the Swift UI stuff is great. Macros in general, with both like observable and Swift data and stuff. This kind of more first party stuff, but also just in general being able to use macros for whatever. I was interested to see, and maybe they'll say it in an actual like Swift UI session, if they mention removing the 10 view limit in Swift UI or something.
I'm sure it's gone.
Yeah,
it has to be gone with the periodic generics.
I hope so.
I don't know if it would be backwards compatible, actually. It should be.
I don't know.
No, it wouldn't, because those methods are not available unless they backported. They backported some stuff in UIKit. I forget what exactly, but I was reading through and I was like, oh, this functionality is available in iOS 13. I was like, thumbs up.
Oh, I do remember seeing
something in
like
the
that,
release
yeah.
notes. But yeah, like they could do that. So yeah, it most certainly is something they are considering. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Something else we talked about loosely is they have the game porting toolkit, which was another focus of their State of the Union, which has an emulation environment for Windows games, which I found to be kind of fascinating. Just so you can see,
That's interesting.
What's
Very
your baseline
interesting.
running on Apple Silicon? What's your baseline?
No optimization.
No optimizations. Running through an emulator. Like it only goes up from here.
I mean, if it's anything like Rosetta,
I think
done.
it's Rosetta plus Wine. Honestly, I don't think they're running.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like they don't need to run all of Windows. They just need to run enough of Windows for you to like run an app, and that's a proven science at this point. So with Rosetta doing the rest of it,
Wait,
like that.
So does
that
mean,
is amazing.
Does that mean we could get like Windows games just running straight out of the box?
If you're
That'd
a developer,
be cool.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, although would you have to have like? I don't think you could just like throw in the exe. Like you'd have to have.
I imagine you could.
No way, dude. That'd be
Well,
so cool.
But if
so
you
that's the
could,
thing.
then that's
If
what I'm
you,
saying, right?
yeah, I think this is one of those things. Like, if you're a developer and you have the basic know-how to navigate these tools, why not, right? Like,
Oh,
Windows
that'd be
developers are not
sweet,
going to have
dude.
a unified build system to
Yeah.
like target. They're just going to have their built executable, and then you run it.
Good point, dude.
So that is,
It's probably gonna run like hot garbage
oh
for
yeah,
most
definitely.
stuff, though.
I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
I want to be surprised.
I don't know. Maybe if you have an M2 Ultra, but otherwise,
These are
be cool
beasts
though.
on a like chip.
Yeah, graphically, like not a ton though.
Yeah, unless so I remember reading there's a whole bunch of stuff you need to do with regard to how you access memory with the tile mapper or something. That if you do that correctly, you're going to get phenomenal performance out of the M series of chips. If you do not do that, you're going to have like a miserable time trying to get all the performance that you actually want. So that's like the major limiting factor that I don't think you're going to get for free just by doing the emulation layer. You will maybe start to get that from free when you like convert the shaders and stuff like that. But from what I've read, if you architect it for this from the beginning, you're good. Like there's a lot of performance headroom. If you don't, then you're kind of stuck unless you rewrite everything from scratch. So that's the trade-off there.
I don't think it's quite comparable, but like the Steam Deck, for example, runs Linux, and Valve, has its own compatibility layer that it's using to run Windows games, and they run pretty well on a not terribly great chip. It's it's x86 and stuff, so it's like not directly comparable, but I could see it
Well,
happening.
it's never
in some
CPU,
form.
right? It's always the GPU performance. Like
That's fair.
the Steam
Yeah.
Deck is
Good
what,
point.
1080p,
720p or
720.
800p.
So yeah, it's not even that that many pixels.
Yeah.
And then like
Yeah,
we
that's
expect anything running on a Mac to use all 5K of our pixels. Like gamers don't even use 4K; they use 1080p, just high frame rate. So there's a big trade off there that
definitely
people need to contend with. So this hopefully helps. They also get a shader converter, which will just take old shaders and turn them into metal shaders. There's
That's cool.
Work that they need to do to convert the graphics code that they just kind of glossed over, which I feel like is most of the work. Just don't worry about that stuff. That's the days. Everything else was an hour.
Exactly.
The rest of the days. So that's cool. As far as the other media kit stuff, AV camera supports zero shutter lag now. So if you are making a camera app, you can make a better camera app. It will do all the overlapping captures, the deferred processing, volume shutter button. It will basically do all the things that you hoped it would do, and it just didn't. So that's neat. There's a new HDR spec for photos, which is not by Apple, but Apple helped write it to make it into a real spec, so that's neat. And then Screen Capture Kit has a new window picker for better privacy. So you no longer, as I many times have to do, wait for, 20, 30 seconds for Slack to enumerate all your windows into its bad picker for you to choose the one that you want when you just want to share your whole screen anyways. Now you can just go ahead and ask the system to give you a list of 200 windows, and maybe that one's faster. We will see. I'll be the first to report once Slack uses this new window picker, which they probably won't. And that kind of circles it off for the media related stuff, right? Or media and graphics. The watch has new tab views, which look pretty cool, I would say. Like little dots when you rotate the thing. But you don't use an Apple Watch?
I tried for many years.
You're missing out on a key platform, Fernando.
I can assure you I am not.
That definitely does not have one developer developing for more than. No, it seems like they put quite a bit into it this year. And then the toolbar will automatically put stuff in the corners for you. So it just adapts, which is neat. So you get the new styling just by building with the new SDK, assuming you didn't customize too much, which I have definitely not learned that lesson of customizing UIs too much, where new SDKs don't just break everything permanently. Onto accessibility, they have new APIs for pausing animated images. Very welcome to be system-wide. They have the thing where it will dim flashing lights automatically in AV Foundation. There's an API for it. And the open source thing that we mentioned last week, that is actually just the reference. Like, that is the code that does it, but you don't need that code when running when you're running on a Mac or an iPhone or iPad. Onto privacy, and I think I'm just speed running through these because there's so many.
There's not a lot. I mean, there's not a lot to say with some of these in regards to some of these.
Yeah. The privacy one is cool.
Yes.
There is a new built-in photo picker again. This one I think is to show like a little strip or ribbon like apps like to do of like recent photos, so you don't have to show like the whole thing. I think this like gives a little bit more control to do that, and I think it had like a HUD on top of it that says this is private. The app doesn't see this. I think.
Neat.
Yeah.
I
think so. Yeah. Which is like nice because
it's a reminder.
The only reason,
it's a reminder to the user, basically.
Yeah, like the only reason I saw Facebook, well, two reasons, but one is for the Facebook Marketplace because like that's kind of how people just sell things here. And I've definitely not shared my photo library with Facebook, right? But every time I want to post something, I have to go into the settings app and change what my selected photos are. So being able to have the whole photo picker is nice, but like not letting the actual app see that, but still being able to select photos, like I'm stoked for like that one use.
It's also a dance. I don't know if you do this, Spencer, but every time I have to do that, I deselect all previous images.
Yep.
So
100%.
Yeah, it's like you don't need those anymore. Here's the 3.
It's a pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can see that. I can see how helpful it'd be.
Yeah. Privacy labels are getting an overhaul. Namely, library providers can say exactly what they're collecting, so that way app developers don't need to figure it out. I imagine no one is going to do this except all the libraries that don't collect any information. They're going to be like, we don't collect any information.
Sweet. Yeah.
So, that was I think that was Apple trying to warn people. It's like, hey, these third-party SDKs, like, don't use them for the most part.
Yeah, basically.
Did it happen to any of you? We were using Sentry sometime. I don't know if it was this year or last year. We used Sentry for like crash reporting in general. There was an update. I was building a feature. I don't remember what feature. And suddenly, when I was on the main screen, it requested like contacts or something. Like the app suddenly started requesting access to contacts or photos. I don't remember what it was. I was like, what the fuck? I didn't change anything. And I for 4 hours, I was going through my code like, what is going on? Why were we? And it was Sentry.
That sucks.
It was apparently an issue where they imported contacts, and I don't know if this is true, but apparently importing contacts was enough to trigger the. But I was like, holy, like this is crazy. Like we just updated a dot release and it started requesting, and their answer was ridiculous. It was like, oh, just set a text string, like the display string, saying we don't use it.
We don't want to collect contacts.
Yeah. And I'm like, what? No, I don't even want to ask if someone wants contacts. It was the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But
that sucks.
Yeah, so this is really nice. Like the privacy labels are nice.
Yikes.
If they actually do them.
There are SDK signatures, which I don't think anyone is going to do. But I think Xcode does automatically. It's just going to fingerprint and say like, hey, the SDK looks different all of a sudden. Are you sure you got it from the right place? And then the cool part is there's now sensitive content analysis as a framework, which allows any app to just find sensitive content. So if you are writing, say, a Mastodon client and you just don't want to deal with people tagging stuff correctly,
moderation.
you can just have it automatically like figure out like, hey, this maybe not meant for your feed. And you can give the user control to turn that on or off and like hide and do all the
Very
things
nice.
that you need to do. So
I wonder if
very
it does
welcome
spoilers.
there. Yeah. It cannot do that for spoilers, unfortunately.
Oh no.
This is what I wanted to go back. Sorry, real quick. This is what I wanted to go back to or talk about when we were talking about AirDrop. Is this works with AirDrop? So it's like all on device, which is sweet. So if someone airdrops you like a nude photo, it'll blur it out and everything, and be like, "Do you want to even receive this?" So like that's cool.
That is very welcome.
Not that I've ever had that happen to, but like I'm sure women.
I've only heard of that happening.
That.
I have received a sloth before, which I found hilarious. I passed on the sloth since because you have to. But that's very interesting that AirDrop supports that. What I'm hoping is that apps can maybe drop the requirements of like the 17 plus when the device is like, they can't do this now, but I'm hoping Apple makes available parental controls that are set on the device to apps, so that way an app can self-moderate itself, if that makes sense.
That'd be cool.
And limit functionality based on what the parental controls are set to. That way an app doesn't have to be 17 plus, right? If it has like some checkboxes that allow outside access, well, if you're a kid, no outside access and done. Then it's no longer a 17 plus app. So I think this is kind of inching in that space, and maybe you can do that. I don't know. It's been many years since I last checked, but something interesting. On to the App Store, where we did not get any of the news that we were expecting, but we did get some news. StoreKit views, meaning you get a SwiftUI? I don't know. SwiftUI, UI kit, whatever.
I think it's SwiftUI.
You get some views that you get to use that just show your product page.
Nice.
AKA, we are returning finally to the original days of the App Store, where you had a product page and a buy button. Now you can download the app first, you can try it out, and then you have a product page and a buy button that you didn't need to write. And I think this is like, finally. I don't know why it took this long. Most of the app developers that I know are not ones that like writing their own stores, turns out. And turns out it's hard to write your own store because you have to go with the times, and the times are constantly changing, and Apple's changing their mind, and then they say, oh, this is not allowed when this is what they were suggesting, and it's a big back and forth for no reason. So I am so happy that StoreKit views are like a proper thing now.
Yep, that's good.
And then we go on to our favorite app that we use the most, and that is Xcode. Xcode is getting quite a lot. That is interesting. Namely, code completion got a name drop. That's right. Our podcast got a name drop during the Xcode segment regarding autocomplete, because they're just talking about code completion in regular terms, not this podcast. But yeah, the autocomplete now uses your current context over everything else, so even less scenarios for NSStream. Which is very welcome. The asset catalogs now get symbols automatically generated. I think this was possible in previous years. It just wasn't done automatically for you. Now, Xcode will just do it, so that's welcome. Nice. SwiftUI previews got simplified. There's no longer all this like setup that you need to do. You just use a new macro, which is #preview, and it will take care of the rest, which is the magic of macros.
And it works on SwiftUI views, UIKit views,
the whole range.
That's so good.
And it was possible to do it for UIKit and AppKit previews as well. You just had to write a whole bunch of wrapper code for no real reason. So that's all gone.
So let the macro do it for you. That's the best part.
You can stage changes on a line-by-line basis now, which is also welcome. That's something I always use GitHub Desktop to do. So great that Xcode can do it. We'll see how well it can do it when it is something that I download, which I can do very fast now, it turns out. New test results. If you run tests, the whole screen got revamped. It takes screen recordings of UI tests, which I think is just going in line with what other tools for like web development and stuff do. There's a big framework called Cypress that does all this. So I think that's Apple trying to meet demand of people saying like, oh, iOS development sucks. It's not like web development. So now it's more like web development. So that's cool. Linking is 5 times faster. Thumbs up.
Cool.
You can merge libraries if you have lots of libraries. Also thumbs up. And Xcode is 50% smaller on the Mac App Store. All the SDKs are downloadable.
Really?
I don't know if it's universal. Let's try.
It was like 7. I downloaded it. It was like 7 gigs or something.
Oh yeah, so it's only 50% smaller does not mean half the size. It just means that. What does it mean?
It means half the size.
It doesn't mean half the size.
Whenever
they use
I'd say
percentages,
so.
it's always confusing.
So
Oh no, I'm sorry. It was the zip is 3.09 gigs.
So if you go up, it's complicated. Like 50%
Faster.
extra. That's weird.
That's 1.5.
Yeah.
Right.
Or it can mean, I don't remember. I'm getting confused, but yeah, 50% should mean half. Like literally,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, hold on. I'm signing into Apple to download Xcode now. Hold, please. View downloads. Why was I not looking at downloads already? Oh, you can choose at the time of download.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's funky.
Which thing? Yeah, downloads like a manifest.
Okay, so the minimum is 2.8 gigabytes. If you add iOS, it's 9.89. Wow. watchOS is 6.5. And tvOS is 6. So watchOS and tvOS are like 4 gigabytes, 3 point something gigabytes each. iOS is 7 gigabytes. And if I just choose them all, oh, they're all downloading as individual packages.
Yeah, it was kind of weird.
And it's done.
It's like a DMG for iOS. Wow. Okay.
5G. So yeah, Xcode. It's better.
Yeah.
Xcode Cloud is also better. It has tester notes for test flight, and it can do notarization as well. And then finally, we have visionOS, which is not RealityOS, and it's not XROS, which were like the two names that were floating around. It's not now, but it might have been.
It might have been a couple days ago. It was pretty funny to see them add like a new target, and it said XROS, and I was like, "Oh boy, this is a recent change." Okay.
Yeah. So things still need to kind of go through the marketing push.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's a new kind of paradigm to deal with. You have a concept called spaces. You either have the shared space, which can occupy multiple apps, or a full space, which is like you're immersed in this one thing that you're doing. The shared space has a concept of windows. So you can put windows wherever you are. I don't know if there's a limit. They kind of only showed 3 at a time on most of the things.
Yeah,
I'm very afraid if this is like a artificial limit for our very underpowered M2 processor to deal with. And Windows can have depth and 3D elements. And the other type of thing is you can have a volume, and a volume is a horizontal surface that just goes up. So if you want to show like a 3D object, that's a volume that you're occupying. And those are basically the new paradigms that you're dealing with. It seems like everything is built on RealityKit. Like that is the base framework. SwiftUI was re-implemented on top of RealityKit. And anything UIKit will work. It's just working in a window, like constrained to a 2-dimensional surface, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And then ARKit is your alternative to RealityKit. I don't know if it's a long-term alternative. I think it's kind of like the Carbon and the Cocoa. RealityKit being the Cocoa and ARKit being the Carbon. Like the first kind of experiments that Apple was doing was all ARKit until RealityKit started coming along. So it feels like that. If you have an app that's already built, it's going to work. It doesn't seem like they're pushing people to start something new with ARKit. They are definitely pushing people to start new stuff with UI, with Swift UI. Like,
Yes.
kind of say goodbye to UIKit and AppKit for new development as much as you can. And with that, anything in Swift UI is basically rendered in the same context of 3D space. So you can just say to your view, hey, I want a Z offset for this, and it will just pop out, which is magical.
That's pretty cool.
So there's some new UI paradigms. There's ornaments, which are these little things that are stick as like 3D elements aside or underneath, like tab bars, menus. Very cool. You can have portals, so you can have something that pops out, or you can walk into a different space, kind of thing. I think that's what portals are.
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. There's a dynamic foveation, which is just foveated rendering in every other industry. I don't know why they...
Including in their earlier presentation?
Yeah, I don't know why they needed to give this a new marketing term. But there's dynamic foveation. Yeah. Basically means it's only going to render what you're looking at in high fidelity. Everything else gets poor fidelity. Maybe you need to pay attention to that if you're like counting pixels to do anything specific. It'll get like really, really janky otherwise, but we'll see. They're partnering with something called Material X to get like... I don't know if this is a company or it's a standard. I'm very ill-equipped to talk about this well, so it's there. You can get them on Material X. I don't know if it's .com or something.
Yeah, I think it's just a standard, or either if Material X is the standard or they like made the standard, but they're going
I don't think
with
they made the standard.
like,
that was an ugly logo that they had.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's a thing. There's skeletal hand tracking, which I think means you get all the digits and all the wrist movements. So that's really cool. And there's a simulator. And the simulator, we don't have access to it yet. That's coming in a month, I believe they said, in July.
Yeah, I think so.
And the simulator allows you to go ahead and explore a 3D space that Apple like bundled in it. And you can use your app in that context. And you might be wondering, well, I don't have access to the simulator yet, but I'm going to soon. Do I get access to a device? And this is where things are interesting. So there's no device for the general public until early next year. Very nebulous timing there. It sounds like they just want to get the idea out, to get thoughts, speculations out of the way, and people focus on making stuff for it. For the time being, no one can make stuff for it. In a month, people can start making stuff for it, but no one will have it. You can go and be invited to one of Apple's headquarters in a variety of different cities and use it personally if they choose you. Or they mentioned something very interesting. You can ask them to try it out and tell you if there's anything glaring, which...
Like App Store review, basically.
Yeah, basically. Though I hope better. With a little bit better feedback. Like if there's something specific you want to make sure it works, like you can tell them and they'll really try the heck out of it. And they're like, I don't like your color.
Yeah. The app crash.
Yeah.
That's all you get.
Like I hope it's not that, but it doesn't seem like it will. Or you can put in your name for a developer kit, and the developer kit will be the device. Though I imagine it's not going to be the device for people with glasses. Like that sounds complicated to do developer kits for. So that's like the range here of how you are going to make apps for this thing. So that's cool.
Yeah. They showed off like you again using the headset with your Mac, writing it on, writing the Reality OS or visionOS app while you're wearing the headset on Xcode on this, extended screen, but then to the left, you run the app and it actually
Neat.
pops up to the
That's
side of you.
awesome.
So like that's pretty cool and probably would be a very nice thing to have if you are actively developing an app.
I mean, you can look at
Otherwise,
your monitor, which is probably going to be repixelated, right? Because it's going to be looked at as, that's probably why they developed this, because they're like, well, you can just look at your monitor, and then they realize the monitor is much lower fidelity than they remembered. And that's like the Band-Aid solution,
yeah,
which feels like a Band-Aid solution, but that's what it is.
agreed. Give me a real infinite canvas, you cowards.
Yeah. And yeah, the last thing I want to point out is Apple has some great highlights in their documentation. We'll have a link. Probably the only link we have is probably to that, along with like a few other things. So do check that out. It has basically everything new in one document, which is really, really nice. Yeah. And I think that's it.
I think so.
How are you guys feeling?
45 minutes later.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't mention anything about the App Store. I think they're just going to let that happen and the train wreck that it is. And yeah.
Maybe they'll do... no. I was going to say maybe they'll do something in September when they release the phone with the USB-C port. But they're not going to like do two EU things at the same time probably. So
yeah. As always, I want to personally thank everyone for listening in this week. Please be sure to follow us on mastodon.social at Code Completion to know when new episodes go live. And feel free to tweet at us if there's ever a topic you'd like for us to dig into. Most importantly, as a small podcast, please be sure to share this with your friends and family who are also interested in any part of the process of app development. It's your support that enables us to continue doing this, and we hope to grow a healthy community around everything we discuss. Once again, I want to give my thanks to Spencer, who's at Spencer C. Curtis. That's SpencerCurtis. Fernando, who is at F. Olivares, that's Folivares, for joining me this week. My name, once again, is Dimitri. You can find me at Dimitri Buñol. That's DimitриBouniol. And we'll see you all next week.
Bye.
Okay, so final thing. Apple Sherlock's one more thing today.
Oh, no.
This is something that I mentioned briefly in passing last night because I'm like, I'm going to make Swift data happen for everyone, and I did it. I have started about a month ago, I think is like the first commit. It's quite a while now. A basically pure Swift implementation of a database. Just because it was a curiosity that I've had. And I was aiming for a nice type-safe API around it, based on value types using async await, async sequences, and all that. And I'm making good progress on it, but I did not finish in time for WWDC. So I put myself out into the world, my unfinished work out into the world, saying like, hey, if this makes Swift data happen for everyone, I'm happy with that. And it did. So now is my chance to shine, because I don't think anyone will care after this point. I am making a thing called Codable Data Store. And it is something that will allow you to save value types to a database that's written entirely out of Swift. One of my main things is I hate the complexity that core data brings. It seems simple until you start dealing with persistent stores and saving and context and understanding any of that, and background context, foreground. Like, I don't understand any of that. I try to understand it several times, and then once I feel like I'm starting to understand it, then migrations come in and they pull the rug out from under me. So I don't think I'm ever going to be happy with anything based on core data. The fact that they said, "Oh, it's based on the proven track record of core data," I'm like, yeah, that turned me away even more than what it started with. So I think I'm personally going to still continue developing my Codable data store. And I welcome everyone to follow along on GitHub if you want to learn on how databases work. One thing that I'm going to be focusing on is the actual data that's saved to disk. I want it to be readable by a human. So that way, when things go wrong, you, the developer, can look at it and know, like, hey, I was not saving the right thing to my data store. This is what I saved. and it is wrong. But you have something to look at. Whereas with this, you like no clue how core data is saving things in its SQLite store. So that's my main goal. Is when if you write an app with this and your app kind of goes out with a fizzle over the years, and users want to get at their data, it's there. Like they can look at it. They can write a piece of software to convert it. It shouldn't be complicated. So
you're
that's
building the markdown of databases.
the markdown of databases.
Right?
Yeah, I'm using it.
Yeah. I mean, it sounded exactly like what Groover tried to solve. Like, I hate this. You should have a simple, readable format. So I like that.
Now I can't introduce a binary store version. That would be much more performant. Darn.
Just say it's like computer markdown.
Computer markdown.
Markdown for computers.
But yeah, those are my main goals. I have a whole list of goals. Those are one of the first things I wrote because I spent a lot of time walking in figure eights with a child in my arms and not a lot of time typing. So that was about all I could write. But I'm starting to get there with the implementation little by little. It's all like solved in my head. I just need to get it into code. So the idea should work. If you want to trust that for what it's worth, don't ever trust that for what it's worth. Oh yeah, definitely.
It's perfect.
It can hold 3 objects. What are you talking about? There's no problem. Sure, there's bit rot over the next few minutes. Yeah, good data persistence. So yeah, anyways, that's my thing that got Sherlocked. I had a different idea that I was hesitant to start, and I'm not going to talk about it here. But I was hesitant to start it because I was sure that when Apple did Reality OS or visionOS, it would be part of that, and like there would be no point to me doing it. However, they didn't do that. So I have another idea that's going to be targeted towards the Vision Pro. And hopefully it will be something that can help me become an independent developer one day. I don't know. But I will talk about that once it's a thing rather than before it's a thing. Because it turns out when you talk about things before they're things, they tend not to be made. It's a weird psychological thing.
Yeah, your brain it doesn't.
It did the work, so it's like
it doesn't work
satisfied.
Right. Yes, it sucks.
Yeah. So hopefully other motivators will keep it going past that. And yeah, that's all I got. So on to Zelda. Bye everyone.